Chapter 793. Uncle Lei Yun, this is the big brother Yi I told you about. Seeing the fierce look in the old man's eyes, little Firework quickly stood in front of Yi Qinghan and hurriedly explained. She knew the old man's strength and temper very well. He was afraid that he would accidentally slap Yi Qinghan to death. Yi Qinghan certainly knew the old man in front of him. He was the one who took Lei Yinhua away from the Dancing Phoenix City. Yi Qinghan cupped one hand in the other before his chest and said humbly, "Junior, Yi Qinghan greets Lei Yun Martial Immortal. I want to take Firework to an absolutely safe place." "Oh, why are you so sure that place is safer than here?" Lei Yun Martial Immortal sneered and said firmly. However, since Yi Qinghan had saved Lei Yinhua's life, the fierce look in his eyes faded a little. "You'll know when you get there." Yi Qinghan didn't want to explain too much and said lightly, "Arrogant. Do you know how many people are out there trying to catch little Firework? Do you know who is behind young Master Tu Xie? Boy, you can be confident, but don't be arrogant." Lei Yun's fierce look became serious again. He is 6th grade war god, could only stay here at this moment. Did this boy not know his place? "Lei Yun, it's me. You go with Yi Qinghan." Yi Qinghan sighed helplessly and said no more. At this time, a divine sense floated out of his unfettered ring and attracted Lei Yun Martial Immortal's attention. The faint voice transmitted by the divine sense made the Lei Yun Martial God's body tremble in shock. You are Lei Yun Martial Immortal's aura sword, and his eyes emitted a fiery light. He had completely transformed into an ancient, ferocious beast. His body slightly trembled as he pointed at Yi Qinghan's ring and shouted, "We'll talk when we get back." The divine sense quickly said again. Lei Yun Martial Immortal suddenly came to his senses and stopped talking. He restrained his aura, but the excitement on his face became more intense. "Uncle Lei Yun, what's wrong?" Lei Yinhua was confused and asked worriedly. "It's fine, let's go." Yi Qinghan smiled faintly. He held Lei Yinhua's hand and walked forward quickly. Lei Yun War God quickly followed. The way he looked at Yi Qinghan suddenly changed. The three of them quickly walked out of the dripping water pavilion. Wu Shan was already waiting there. The four of them entered the carriage and quickly disappeared into the distance. As soon as Yi Qinghan's carriage left, many maids and servants appeared in the dripping water pavilion. They walked out one after another to report what they had seen and heard to the people who needed the information. In the dripping water pavilion, the Leia City Lord was in a good mood. He drank several dozen times the alcohol content before leaving in a hurry. Li Bai, who went to report the news, made an exception and was invited to the banquet table by him, enjoying a treatment that made countless elders of the clan envious. In a man-made lake in the deepest part of the dripping water pavilion, an old man was fishing when he heard Li He's report. He turned his head slightly and smiled. He continued to stabilize the fishing platform without moving. Behind him, Li felt that this old man seemed to be one with the lake and the heaven and earth. Lovely spring courtyard, heaven room. Young Master Tu Xie was very angry. He had already smashed hundreds of wine cups. The two elders of the Netherworld clan stood helplessly at the side. They were the two strongest experts of the Netherworld clan, but their 6th grade strength was nothing in the eyes of that person. The only way to solve this problem was through young Master Tu Xie's master, Evil Moon. "I can only ask Master for help." Young Master Tu Xie smashed another cup and took out a communication jade talisman to send a message. At the same time, a piece of news quickly spread among countless peerless young masters. That young master actually entered Miss Li Shui's boudoir and stayed there for a long time. When he left, he took Miss Fireworks and Lei Yun War God with him. Countless young masters transferred all their hatred towards young Master Tu Xie to Yi Qinghan. Young Master Tu Xie wanted to have a threesome, but this young Master Yi, who appeared out of nowhere, seemed to have already had a threesome. The city was in turmoil. The entrance of the joyful red courtyard was filled with countless scouts, but no one dared to provoke him. After all, the reason why they knew Yi Qinghan was because he had trampled on a rather famous playboy, and the Lihe City Lord had made a clear statement. They were not fools. Without a suitable opportunity, no one dared to show themselves. Joyful red courtyard, heaven room 1. Lei Yinhua looked around the luxurious room curiously. When she saw Yi Yao Rao walk out of one of the rooms, she happily ran towards her and was ready to say goodbye to her. But at this moment, she felt the space behind her ripple. A golden door suddenly appeared in the room. She turned her head to look at the golden door in surprise, but in the next second, she was petrified. A tall and mighty figure appeared in the door. His face was unusually emotional, and his eyes were shining with tears. He walked like a dragon and a tiger, but it was obvious that he was trembling slightly. In that pair of tiger eyes, Lei Yinhua saw endless affection, guilt, and unparalleled pride. Yinhua, little Yinhua, Lei Zhen's lips were trembling. Even his outstretched hands were shaking. He wanted to hug Lei Yinhua, but he did not dare to. He was afraid that Lei Yinhua would reject him. He could only hang in the air, trembling. Lei Yin War God, the moment Lei Zhen appeared, he looked hundreds of thousands of years younger. His face was full of joy. Although he had confirmed it through the transmission, just now he was still very excited. Lei Zhen was back. Their Lei family's genius, Lei family's pride, was back. Empress Yu, who was following behind, had tears in her eyes. She quietly walked to Yi Qinghan's side. Yi Yao Rao also came over. Everyone looked at Lei Yinhua, waiting for her reaction. "Who are you?" Lei Yinhua blinked her big, watery eyes. She looked at Lei Zhen and said uncertainly, "Why do I feel that you have a very familiar scent? But I have never seen you before." Lei Yinhua's words made Lei Zhen's body tremble even more. A familiar scent. How could there not be a familiar scent? The two of them had the same blood flowing in their bodies. This was the resonance between their bloodlines. Lei Zhen's trembling hands finally held Yinhua's shoulders. Strangely, Lei Yinhua did not show any reaction. Lei Zhen's expression became even more guilty. He said with a trembling voice, "Little Yinhua, you have never seen me before. In fact, this is the first time I have seen you. Let me introduce myself. I am Lei Zhen, your irresponsible father. I am a failure of being a father. I have let you and your mother down. Little Yinhua, I do not ask you to forgive me. I only ask that you give me a chance to redeem myself. Father is back. From now on, no one in this world can make you suffer. Not even a little bit." Boom! Lei Yinhua felt as if thunder had exploded in her mind. Her body swayed, but she did not fall. She finally understood why this man felt so familiar yet strange. Why this man gave her an incomparable sense of security. Why when this man held her shoulders, she instinctively did not want to resist. Her curved eyelashes were once again wet. Her perfect little face was filled with tears. She looked at Lei Zhen with tearful eyes, but she revealed a brilliant smile. It was an intoxicating smile and a soft voice that made one's heart ache. "Father? You are my father? Yinhua finally has a father? Yinhua has a father." Chapter 794. A pair of father and daughter, a hug that had been delayed for decades. They hugged each other and cried, expressing their deep longing for each other with their tears. The crowd quietly left, leaving the father and daughter alone. Yi Qinghan brought the crowd to the small hall for tea. He felt relieved. With Lei Zhen and Lei Yun here, no one would be able to snatch firework away. The Lei family had several 7th-grade war gods, but only Lei Zhen and the Lei family patriarch were at the peak of 7th grade. As long as Lei Zhen returned to Longyang Manor, the Lei family would not dare to let out a fart. In fact, Yi Qinghan was wrong. Lei Zhen and Firework chatted for more than 2 hours before summoning Lei Yun. They then chatted for another 2 hours. Lei Zhen brought the two into the small hall with a face full of smiles. He smiled at Yi Qinghan and said, "Little Yi, I wonder if your new city can accommodate us too?" Yi Qinghan was stunned. Empress Rain was also surprised. Feng Qi and Wu Shan were overjoyed, but Lei Yun was helpless. Lei Zhen's words were clear. He did not want to return to the Lei family of Longyang Manor. "Uncle Lei Zhen, you are right. As long as the new city is built, it will always be your home." Even though he did not know what the Lei family did to hurt Lei Zhen, Yi Qinghan was not a fool. He immediately made his stand clear. a seventh-grade war god. With this kind of power, he could even be the lord of a manor. Lei fireworks' arrival in the first room brought endless joy. Lei Jun laughed all day long, as if his mouth was convulsing. Yi Qinghan also did not go out on Yi Qinghan's night. He accompanied Firework all day long, making her feel the warmth of a family member. 3 days later, Martial Immortal Lei Yun bade farewell bitterly and left. He brought back the news that Lei Jun was not willing to return to the Lei family. At the same time, he prepared to use this news to slap the faces of those old fellows in the Hall of Elders. As soon as Lei Yun left, the people of the Lei family in Leaping Spring City came to Yihong Brothel. This group of people was sent by the Lei family's elder hall to capture Lei Yanhua. The leader was a 6th-ranked elder, Lei Bo War God. The Thunderstorm War God obviously received the news after Yi Qinghan brought out the thunder fireworks, but he did not dare to make a move. They weren't afraid of Feng Qi, a war god at the peak of 6th grade, but they were wary of the Liha City Lord. After all, the Liha City Lord had made his stance very clear that if anyone provoked Yi Qinghan, he would even dare to slap a member of the Li clan, let alone an outsider. Before Lei Yun War God left, he made a trip to Lei Bao's place and used Lei Jun's news to slap Lei Bao in the face. Lei Bao was shocked and hurried over to greet him, hoping for Lei Jun's forgiveness. Otherwise, when Lei Yun invited the Lei clan patriarch out of seclusion and found out about this, he would definitely tear him apart. However, Lei Bao brought 2 men in and knelt in room number 1 for 3 days and 3 nights, but the door was still tightly shut. In the end, it was opened. Feng Qi picked them up one by one and threw them out of the joyful red courtyard. Lei Bao and the other 2 didn't dare to resist, allowing Feng Qi to throw them out the door like chickens. Lei Bao was clear that this was a serious matter. He got up and led the Lei clan's men to the transportation array to Longyang City to ask for forgiveness. He hoped that after the patriarch came out of seclusion, he would be able to save his life in a fit of rage. When this news spread, the entire city was in an uproar. Someone from Misty City came. It was the eldest disciple of Evil Moon, the honorable Evil Fury War God, who had the strength of an upper 7th grade. Evil Moon, the honorable, once again told the world how much he doted on this little disciple. However, young Master Tu Xie didn't dare to move. Although he didn't know what happened in the joyful red courtyard, he instinctively felt that if he brought people over, they would most likely end up crawling out. Evil Fury War God didn't come just for Tu Xie. In fact, the entire continent was shaken during this period of time. The ones who were shaken were, of course, the group of people who stood at the pinnacle of the continent. The Li clan released news that a mutant fruit had been born this time, and it was a top-grade mutant fruit. There were 5 types of top-grade mutant fruits, and the quantity was huge. Moreover, a rare treasure had been born in this auction. Ifli Shui, Er's coming-of-age ceremony, had shaken the famous young masters of the continent. Then the Li clan's news had shaken all the experts of the continent. What was a mutant fruit? What did the appearance of so many mutant fruits mean? What was the rare treasure that the Li clan refused to reveal? Whether it was to fight for the mutant fruit, or the rare treasure, or to find out the shocking secret behind the appearance of so many mutant fruits, Dripping Spring City was bustling. Countless experts flocked over. 6th-grade war gods could be seen everywhere in Dripping Spring City. It was said that one of the 5 honorables under the Misty Monarch, Reverend Fragrance, had also come. The entire Dripping Spring City was incomparably noisy, but no one dared to cause trouble. With so many supreme powerhouses gathered here, a random god general might attract a group of supreme powerhouses. The gates of the Dripping Water Pavilion opened once again. The Leia City Lord welcomed batch after batch of experts into the Dripping Water Pavilion. The smile on his face grew wider and wider. These were all god stones. Yi Qing'an naturally had to go to the auction. Yi Yaorao and Lei Yanhua also clamored to go and take a look. It wasn't convenient for Lei Jun to show his face, so he could only ask Feng Qi Wushan to accompany them. Since the experts of Dripping Spring City had already guessed something, then it was a good time to ask Feng Qi Wushan to confuse them and intimidate them. They still sat in the luxurious carriage to the auction house. This time, no one dared to look down on this horse-drawn carriage. Just as the carriage arrived at the auction house, head shopkeeper Li Huang and Li Bai came forward to welcome them. Yi Yaorao and Lei Yinhua were masked with silk scarves, so their appearances couldn't be seen. However, when they got off the carriage, the passers-by and the martial artists nearby stared straight at them. Yi Yaorao had an icy temperament. Feng Qi was noble and unparalleled, and Lei Yinhua was spirited. Even though their appearances couldn't be seen, just from their temperament, one could tell that these three were absolute beauties. Yi Qinghan, who was in the middle of the three women, became the center of attention. He was almost drowned by the envious and jealous gazes of the crowd. Li Huang and Li Bai stared at Feng Qi and suddenly realized something. Feng Qi did not conceal her strength today. Her eyes sparkled, and it was as if she was looking at a vast sea of stars. This was a soul cultivator, and a very powerful one at that. Li Huang and Li Bai instantly came to this conclusion. Under Li Huang's personal guidance, they walked into a small hall. There was a transmission array in the small hall. With a flash of white light, they arrived at an incomparably spacious hall. The hall was divided into 2 levels. In the middle was a high platform with nearly 10,000 luxurious seats around it. The upper level was filled with small private rooms, and there were nearly 1,000 of them. Li Huang arranged for them to enter private room 18. This arrangement made Yi Qinghan very suspicious. Logically speaking, with his identity and Feng Qi, Lei Yinhua following him, it should be enough to enter the top 10 private rooms. It seemed like there were really many big shots here this time. Little man, keep a low profile later. There are many powerful experts here today, and at least 10 of them are comparable to Lei Zhen. Venerable level experts, 2 of them are here. 2 hours later, Feng Qi's voice transmission made Yi Qinghan understand that there were indeed a lot of big shots here today. More than 10 peak rank 7s came. This did not surprise Yi Qinghan, but 2 venerable level experts came. This shocked Yi Qinghan a little. Chapter 795. The entire auction hall was crowded with people. The 10,000 seats below were almost all occupied. These people were whispering to each other and glancing at the private rooms on the second floor from time to time. They seemed to be guessing which big shot would come. The private rooms on the second floor had the same transparent barrier as Yi Qinghan's room. The people inside could clearly see outside, but the people outside could not. Of course, divine senses could enter, but no one dared to check. After all, those who could sit in the private rooms were all wealthy and important people. If you angered them, not only would they not teach you a lesson, they could easily ask the Li family to invite you out. The auction had not started yet. Countless beautiful maids were shuttling between the seats, bringing tea and wine to everyone. They also explained how to bid for the treasures they wanted. Yi Qinghan's private room, of course, had a professional maid serving outside the loft. She also brought a bunch of brochures to Yi Qinghan and the others, explaining the treasures to be auctioned and the process of the auction. Yi Qinghan came today because of Li He's invitation. He also wanted to see how much these fruits could be sold for. As for the treasures on the brochures, he was not interested. On the contrary, Lei Hua, Yi Yao, and Lei Hua gathered together and looked at it carefully. Wow, this thing is so beautiful. This is fun too. The 3 women exclaimed from time to time. Of course, it was mostly Lei Hua who said it. Although Lei Hua was a young girl, it was not appropriate for her to express her emotions. However, her eyes shone brightly. Yi Yao Rao was cold, but her face was full of excitement. This proved one thing. No matter what kind of woman they were, their desire to buy was very strong. Take a good look. Tell me what you want to buy later, and I will buy it for you. Yi Qinghan smiled faintly. He glanced at the items on the list. Most of them were worth tens of billions. Perhaps it would have been a sky-high price for him in the past, but now, he really didn't feel any pressure. When the 3 women heard what Yi Qinghan said, they were even more excited. Many of the items on the brochures were useless to them, but they were beautiful. Women's resistance to beautiful things was basically zero. The auction was about to begin. Along with Li Huang's smile, the surroundings were deathly silent. Levi was wearing a black formal attire embroidered with gold rims, looking very pretentious. Following behind him was a row of beautiful women holding jade boxes. They bowed to the four directions before opening their mouths with a face full of smiles. Everyone, before the auction begins, allow me to represent Dripping Spring City to welcome the strongest of our misty continent. Reverend Fragrance. Wah! The quiet square instantly became noisy again. The martial artists below all consciously stood up and bowed towards the third private room with Li Huang. At the same time, he was incomparably shocked. This Reverend Fragrance was actually sitting in the third private room? Then who were the second and the first? But Venerable Fragrance didn't reply, and Li Huang didn't resolve this suspense. The auction had begun, and everyone had no choice but to pull their attention back. The first items to be auctioned were some ordinary goods, high-grade divine weapons, middle-grade pills, spiritual pets, and so on. The ones bidding were all the martial artists sitting below. None of the guests in the private rooms even participated in the bidding. 2 hours later, the second batch of treasures arrived. This was going to be interesting. The second batch belonged to the real rare treasures. The guests in the private rooms all made their moves, and the atmosphere of the auction heated up. The next item to be auctioned is a million-year-old water spirit pearl from the Star Sea. This water spirit pearl has the effect of resisting fire and water, and it has the effect of beautifying one's skin when worn all year round. It is said that it can make a woman more beautiful. Of course, it is only a little. It is also very helpful for cultivation. The starting price is 50 million divine stones, and each increment must be no less than 5 million divine stones. As Li Huang finished speaking, a beautiful woman opened a jade box in her hands, revealing a sky-blue pearl. The pearl was surrounded by mist, and it was shiny and beautiful beyond compare. "Little man, help me bid for this pearl." The Rain Empress spoke. Her name was Lan Yu, and she liked blue things the most. Moreover, this pearl had the effect of beautifying one's skin. Although Li Huang emphasized that it was only a little, she was still successfully moved. Lei Yanhua and Yi Yaorao actually liked it very much, but since the Rain Empress had spoken, they didn't say anything. "All right." Yi Qinghan replied indifferently, but he picked up the dripping spring tea on the table and drank it slowly and politely. 100 million divine stones. The first to bid was the one in the 70-something private room upstairs, and he immediately doubled the price. 300 million. 500 million divine stones. The martial artists on the first floor wanted to bid, but they were scared off by the young masters in the private rooms upstairs. They knew that this item was not something they could touch. This item was so beautiful, and it had magical effects. Obviously, it would become the object of contention for these young masters. Everyone was here for Li Shuier, and if they bought this treasure at her family's auction house and gave it to her, it would surely increase her impression. 800 million divine stones. 1.5 billion divine stones. 2 billion. The price gradually increased, and it was all in the hundreds of millions. The martial artists below were amazed by the generosity of these exceptional young masters. This item was at most worth 1 billion divine stones, but now was auctioned for several billion. They were all prodigals. When the price reached 5 billion, it began to stop, and only the guests in private rooms 23 and 35 were still fighting for it. Moreover, every time the price was raised, it would increase by 10 or 20 million divine stones. It seemed that they had reached the bottom line. Yi Qinghan put down the teacup in his hand and estimated that it was about time. He picked up a communication jade stone on the table and wrapped it with his divine power. Then he said softly, 10 billion divine stones. The voice was transformed by the communication jade stone, and it became somewhat indistinguishable, but the three words 10 billion resounded in everyone's ears. The surroundings were deathly silent, and even Li Huang was slightly surprised as he raised his head and looked over. This water spirit pearl could be auctioned for 5 billion divine stones, which was already a sky-high price, but this young master in private room 18 had doubled it. Even if he had divine stones, he didn't have to spend it like this, right? Which peerless young master was this? How could he be so powerful? The two private rooms upstairs were completely silent. Firstly, they couldn't afford this price. Secondly, they knew that the guest who could bid for the top 20 private rooms had an extraordinary status. They didn't want to offend him for something like this. The Empress of Rain was excited, and she looked at Yi Qinghan with seductive eyes. It made Yi Qinghan's heart itch, and he wanted nothing more than to start a fight right now. In the next few rounds of the auction, the young master in room 18 shocked everyone again. A vanishing shadow god puppet with a snow-white body, black hooves, wings, and speed that could reach the peak of a god king. It also had a defensive shield that could withstand an attack from a peak god king. Not to mention the young ladies. Even the young masters were very happy with such a divine steed. This was an excellent gift. The auction became even more intense, and the price reached more than 10 billion divine stones. 30 billion divine stones. Lei Yanhua's eyes lit up, and she pulled Yi Qinghan's hand to bid for it. Yi Qinghan had no choice but to wait until the price reached 18 billion divine stones before he made his move again. As Yi Qinghan spoke, the hall fell silent again. If the water spirit pearl had any effect, then this divine steed was nothing more than a toy. This godly steed was nothing but a toy to a powerhouse. Although it was a beautiful toy, it was still a toy. No one was so stupid. What if Li Shui didn't like it and ate it? Chapter 796. 30. 1 million divine stones. However, someone seemed to have figured out the identity of the guest in private room 18. He immediately started to bicker with him. His voice was very arrogant. He didn't use the communication stone and just used the original voice. Moreover, he only added 1 million divine stones. It was a clear provocation. Young noble vomiting blood. It seems like he really wants to vomit blood. Yi Qinghan glanced at private room 19 and sneered. He picked up the communication stone and said, 40 billion divine stones. Hiss. Gasps could be heard from below. Everyone looked at private room 18. They thought that this person was crazy. He actually increased the bid by 10 billion. How is this a bid? He was obviously acting in a fit of anger. 41 million. Young noble Tu Xie's faint voice came from private room 19 again. It seemed like he was going to fight. Yi Qinghan's mocking smile became even more intense. Lei Yan shook her head, indicating that she didn't want it. Yi Qinghan picked up the communication stone and said, 50 billion. Tu Xie, you add another 1 million, and this divine steed will be yours. Wow! There was an uproar below. They were shocked by young, noble Tu Xie's boldness. They were stunned by the fact that he didn't give young, noble Tu Xie any face. They were also excited by his domineering provocation. Although the original voice of private room 18 couldn't be heard, it was obviously the voice of a young noble. But he was actually ranked before young, noble Tu Xie. This was a little thought-provoking, and his domineering performance today clearly showed that he didn't put young, noble Tu Xie in his eyes. One had to know that Venerable Xie Yu had expressed his fondness for this young disciple several times. But this young noble still didn't give him any face. Bang! In private room 19, young noble Tu Xie's eyes were burning with rage. The teacup in his hand shattered. However, he didn't dare to make a sound. He was indeed the continent's most powerful young noble Tu Xie, but he didn't have many divine stones. His senior brother, Evil Fury Battle God, also had divine stones. But his divine stones were used to buy mutant fruits. In terms of wealth, he didn't have the confidence to suppress Yi Qinghan. The Evil Fury Battle God narrowed his eyes as he sat on the side. He didn't seem to notice Tu Xie's anger. With his sole consciousness, he found Yi Qinghan and Yu Ho. He told Tu Xie that his original intention was to use Yi Qinghan to suppress Tu Xie's arrogance. Of course, he wouldn't say anything now. Before coming here, Venerable Evil Moon had said that they should not get involved in the affairs of young people. Evil Tu was good at everything, but he was too arrogant. Seeing that the Evil Fury Battle God did not respond, Tu Xie had no choice but to shut up. Room 19 fell silent. This made the martial artist below think that young Master Tu Xie had lowered his head. The arrogant young Master Tu Xie actually lowered his head to another young master? This news was a little shocking. The identity of the young master in private room number 18 was even more puzzling. The rest of the auction was even more interesting. The guest in private room number 18 stopped bidding, but as soon as private room number 19 opened his mouth, private room number 18 would immediately follow up with an additional 1,000,000 godly stones. Moreover, the bidding was very clever and stopped at the right time. It was obvious that they were taking revenge on young Master Tu Xie for bickering just now. Young Master Tu Xie was fuming with anger, but at the same time, he let his own people pass on the identity of private room number 18 to those peerless young masters. When these peerless young masters heard this, they were all angry. This young Master Yi was so high profile. He was obviously preparing to suppress everyone and give the Li family and Li Shuier a good impression. Young Master Yi, who came out of the mud, was really preparing to have a threesome? Just as everyone was rubbing their hands and preparing to suppress the young master in private room number 18, private room number 18 suddenly fell silent. It seemed that he had played enough and was tormented by them. The young masters gathered their strength and prepared to punch the air, but they smashed the air. Their chest was so stuffy that they wanted to vomit blood. Yarao, are you not going to bid? Tell me what you like. We don't lack godly stones. Yi Qinghan smiled faintly. He could see that Yi Yaorao wanted to buy some, but in the previous auction, she could see that someone was targeting her. So she was very sensible and didn't say anything. This made Yi Qinghan feel moved in his heart. To be honest, he really didn't lack godly stones. At most, after buying this batch of strange fruits, he would continue to sell them after a period of time. All right, I will tell you if I like something. Yi Yaorao smiled and said in a low voice. However, Yi Qinghan could see that she would definitely not open her mouth. It was not because she was afraid that he would spend godly stones, but because she was afraid that he would fight with others for her. She was really a good wife. Yi Yaorao was not in the mood to bid. After Yu Ho and Lei Yin were also satisfied. Yi Qinghan had played enough. Of course, they wouldn't make a sound. Private room number 18 became silent. The young masters also found that there was no target to vent their anger. The following auction was not as lively as before, until the last treasure of the second batch appeared. This is the final heavenly treasure of the second batch of treasures. Everyone look carefully. This is a true strange treasure. Divine power revolved around Li Huang's hand, and he gently attached it to a jade box held by a beautiful woman beside him. The jade box slowly opened, revealing a blue jade stone. This jade stone was not big, only the size of half a palm. This jade stone was sparkling and translucent, and a white light circulated around it. It was as if a miniature dragon was swimming inside. It was very beautiful, top-grade soul jade, a peerless treasure. Li Huang stood to the side, not saying anything. He kept everyone in suspense. After Yu Ho's eyes lit up, and she exclaimed. Yi Qinghan's heart also tensed up. Since Yu Ho called it a top-grade soul jade, it was definitely a treasure related to the soul. He was a soul cultivator, so he was definitely interested in this kind of treasure. I believe that many of the experts present have already seen it. That's right. This is a soul jade, a top-grade soul jade. Perhaps some of you are not clear about the use of this soul jade. Let me give you a simple explanation. The soul jade is, of course, a treasure related to the soul of a martial artist. After this soul jade is refined, it will stay above the martial artist's soul ocean. First, it can protect the soul. The soul jade can easily block the soul attack of a soul cultivator below the god Arch realm. Even if the soul cultivator's attack is not strong, it can still block it. Second, the soul jade can stimulate the soul ocean, allowing the soul ocean to grow continuously. Of course, the soul ocean can only grow to the peak of the God King realm before it stops growing. This is the only flaw of the soul jade. All right, everyone, start bidding. The starting bid is 100 billion divine stones. Each bid must not be less than 10 billion divine stones. Li Huang lightly opened his mouth and gave a simple explanation of the soul jade. He only explained the two functions of the soul jade clearly. However, the moment he finished speaking, the entire auction house went into an uproar. What was the soul? It It was the foundation of a martial artist. Why were soul cultivators so strong? It was because they could silently attack the soul of their enemies, killing them without leaving a trace. The consensus of the martial artists on the continent was that they would rather offend a peak grade 7 expert than a soul cultivator who had just entered the God-Darch realm. This was the strength of a soul cultivator. Now, this small jade could actually block all the soul attacks of a soul cultivator below the God-Darch realm. It could even block the attacks of an ordinary God-Darch realm soul cultivator. What kind of powerful soul defense divine artifact was this? Furthermore, this jade could allow a martial artist's soul to continuously improve. What was one of the conditions to become a soul cultivator? That was that the soul had to cross the threshold and reach the strength of a god king. With this soul jade, this threshold was no longer a threshold. With this soul jade, a large family clan could continue to produce batch after batch of god king realm martial artists. If this batch of martial artists produced a soul cultivator, everything would be worth it. What shocked the crowd the most was the price of this soul jade. The starting bid was 100 billion divine stones. Furthermore, each bid would not be less than 10 billion. This starting bid was enough to purchase a top-grade mutant fruit. Chapter 797. None of the martial artists below spoke. Everyone knew that they did not have the qualifications to participate in this item. Even the young masters above did not have the qualifications. This item could only be used by the supreme experts of the superclans. Little man, you must obtain this item. This item is too important to you. With this item, your soul will continue to improve. Moreover, this soul jade has special effects. Those who are not soul cultivators will not understand. The Rain Empress looked at Yi Qinghan with a burning gaze and quickly transmitted a message to him. The fire in her eyes was abnormally obvious. Yi Qinghan was also shocked. The Rain Empress actually said that this item had other effects. This item was truly a heaven-defying treasure. But he knew in his heart that this item was very tricky and would probably be very difficult to obtain. 500 billion. Private room number 10 spoke for the first time. The price that came out shocked everyone. The first time he spoke, he actually increased the price by 5 times. The bitterness in the corner of Yi Qinghan's mouth became even thicker. He beckoned to the maid beside him and asked her to call Li Bai up. Li Bai came very quickly. Yi Qinghan did not have the time to be polite with him. He directly said, "Send a message to the Leia City Lord. What is the highest price I can offer?" Li Bai understood the meaning behind Yi Qinghan's words. Yi Qinghan was asking how much he could borrow from the auction house. The Leia City Lord's message came very quickly and decisively. Even Li Bai was shocked. He swallowed his saliva and said, "My lord has replied. Besides the divine stones on you, he can guarantee you 10 trillion divine stones." "All right, I will remember this favor." Yi Qinghan was slightly shocked. He knew that he owed a big favor this time. At the same time, he was a little dazed. When he first came to the divine world, he was anxious to buy the Flame Dragon Overlord's 1 billion divine stones. Now, his name was actually worth 10 trillion divine stones, 3 trillion divine stones, 4 trillion, 5 trillion, 5 trillion. Just as Yi Qinghan summoned the white essence, the price had already soared to 5 trillion. All the experts present were so shocked that they didn't even dare to breathe loudly. The martial artists in the audience knew very well that they were only here to be bystanders. However, they never expected that they would be able to witness what a superclan was like and what it meant to have unparalleled wealth. Those who participated in the auction were all VIPs from private rooms 4 to 15. When the bid reached 5 trillion, only private rooms 6, 10, and 13 were left to compete. However, the price continued to rise rapidly. Before long, it had risen to 7 trillion divinity stones, and it was still increasing by 2 to 300 billion. God damn it, let's go all out. Yi Qinghan was no longer calm. If they were to carry it up like this, when would it end? Since the Rain Empress said that she must bid for it, then let's smash it. Wasn't it just God stones? God stones are F***king bastards. I'll earn them after I've spent them. He even forgot to take the communication jade stone and directly used his divine power to amplify the message. He gritted his teeth and said, "This young master bids 10 trillion. The entire audience was dead silent. All the martial artists in the audience had their eyes locked onto private room 18. 10 trillion. Even the entire wealth of a mid-sized clan wouldn't be this much. If it was someone in the first 10 private rooms who made such a bid, perhaps no one would be shocked." However, Yi Qinghan had actually used his original voice in a moment of desperation. This was the voice of a young master. A young master's voice wasn't strange. What was strange was that in such an occasion, a young master actually dared to speak. Such a large transaction. Normally, only the number 1 or 2 figures of a superclan would dare to make the decision. What did this mean? It meant that this young master could replace the clan head in his superclan. Or perhaps he was the clan head of a superclan. The second possibility was obviously impossible, but the first one was also very thought-provoking. The relationships within every superclan were complicated. The status of a young clan head was very high, but unless it was a clan like Li Shui Er's, who only had one direct descendant, he absolutely didn't have the authority or the guts to represent the clan head. Few people had heard of Yi Qinghan's voice, but his identity was quickly spread throughout the entire auction hall. It was this 10 trillion that young Master Ye's name was destined to spread throughout the entire ethereal continent. To be able to suppress young Master Tu Xie and bid 10 trillion, it would be difficult for him not to become famous. 11 trillion divine stones. At this moment, a shout pulled everyone back from their thoughts. After being stunned for a moment, everyone was shocked again. Their gazes turned and finally stopped at a private room. Unable to move away. Private room 3? Venerable Fragrance actually made a bid. This time, the entire audience was completely silent. No one dared to make another bid. 11 trillion divine stones. Perhaps the people could add a little more, but no one dared to do so. Although Venerable Fragrance was ranked last among the 5 supremacies of the ethereal sovereign, she was a supremacy, right? She could represent the ethereal sovereign, right? And everyone clearly felt that this Venerable Fragrance seemed to be suppressing this young Master Yi. Or was she using another method to tell Yi Qinghan that young Master Tu Xie was from the ethereal city, and not just anyone could suppress him? "Thank you, Uncle Master." At this moment, a respectful and grateful voice came from room 19, causing everyone's expressions to become extremely interesting. It also caused everyone in room 18 to instantly turn gloomy. This slap was very loud. Yi Qinghan's face was boiling hot. This slap made him feel a burning pain. 3 hands reached out at the same time, and 3 pretty faces looked over worriedly. The Rain Empress sighed helplessly and said, "Forget it. Let's not fight over a temporary advantage." Yi Qinghan shook his head helplessly and laughed bitterly. Of course, he wasn't a fool. He wouldn't go against Reverend Fragrance so openly. But there was still a ball of fire in his heart. He despised Venerable Fragrance in his heart. Young people are fighting. Why is an elder like you interfering? Isn't this lowering your status? Since Venerable Fragrance had spoken, of course no one dared to continue interfering. Li Huang looked in Yi Qinghan's direction and said, "No one else is bidding, right? All right, congratulations." Wait! Just as Li Huang was about to announce that the peak grade soul jade belonged to Venerable Piao Xiang, a light voice rang out. The voice was clearly transmitted through a communication jade. It was impossible to tell the gender or age of the speaker. However, it was these 2 light words that caused everyone present to be stunned. Who was so daring? He was preparing to defy the heavens when they looked for the source of the voice. It made countless people break out in a cold sweat, and their bodies began to tremble. The source of the voice came from not far from Venerable Fragrance. Room 1. Even with Venerable Fragrance's status, she could only condescend to the 3rd room. One could imagine the identity of the guest in the 1st room. It was definitely a person who could defy the heavens. Yet, the next words of the owner of the voice made everyone's gazes turn to room 18 again. If they were said to be shocked before, then they were all petrified now. The voice was still indistinguishable from the original, and the tone was still light, as if it was saying something insignificant. 12 trillion divine stones. Fragrance, I want this soul stone. That young Master Yi. I admire him very much. Give this soul stone to him. Chapter 798. Piao Xiang. That name was so smooth to the tongue. Young Master Yi, I admire him very much. This soul jade is for him. 12 trillion god stones. For him, since he was called Piao Xiang, it was needless to say that he was much more powerful than Reverend Piao Xiang. However, Reverend Piao Xiang's strength was in the top 10 of the Misty continent. Who was this? Could it be the Misty Sovereign? Thinking of this, everyone began to tremble slightly. The Misty Sovereign, the legendary 9th grade invincible war god, was a mysterious person. No one expected him to appear here. Some people even wanted to worship him. At this moment, everyone looked at room 18 in a different way. Many peerless young masters even wanted to retreat. But the hatred in young Master Tu Xie's eyes became even more intense. All right, since my lord has spoken, how can Piao Xiang refuse? Reverend Piao Xiang's vague voice came from room 3 again, confirming everyone's guess. Since Reverend Piao Xiang called him my lord, this person was definitely much more powerful than her. But some people still felt a trace of resentment from Reverend Piao Xiang's words. Could it be that the guest in room 1 was not the Misty Sovereign? Then who could it be? Who could make Reverend Piao Xiang not dare to have any intention of fighting? Since the guest in room 1 had spoken, no one else dared to say anything else. The soul jade was sent directly to room 18 under the instruction of the owner of room 1. When Yi Qinghan held the sparkling and translucent soul jade in his hands, he was still in a daze. This was 2 billion god stones. This was the combined wealth of 2 mid-level clans. The guest in room 1 had given it to him just like that. Who was he? Little man, I didn't expect you to hide so much. Hurry up and thank me. Let me tell you, the guests in room 1 and 2 are very powerful. I don't even dare to use my divine sense to investigate. Empress Rain's face was full of smiles. The more she interacted with Yi Qinghan, the more she found him to be unfathomable. At first, he pulled out a young lady from the Li clan. Now, it was even more frightening. He pulled out a person even more powerful than Reverend Piao Xiang. Only now did Yi Qinghan come to his senses, and he walked towards the number 1 private room under Li Bai's lead. Unexpectedly, he just walked out of the back door when he saw Leia City's governor walking over with a face full of smiles, and he was extremely amiable as he directly sent a voice transmission. Little brother Yi, don't go thank him. That lord said that if we're fated to meet in the future, then thank him face to face. Fate brought us together? Yi Qinghan rubbed his nose. He wanted to see him, but no one was giving him the chance. Just who was this person? At first, Yi Qinghan thought that it was Lord Devour. But if it was Lord Devour, he should meet him. Was he wrong? Who was this person? Big brother Li He? Who is this lord? Yi Qinghan's expression did not change, but he secretly transmitted his voice. Li's expression didn't change. He turned around and returned to private room 1, continuing to stand guard outside. Halfway there, he sent a voice transmission over. How am I qualified to know? My venerable must know, but I don't think he'll say it. Embarrassed, he returned to the private room. The third batch of treasures was on the stage. This was today's finale treasure, the strange fruit. It was also the reason why all the experts had come here. Soul Jades might be able to create a batch of disciples with strong souls, but the chances of them becoming soul cultivators were very low, maybe even 0. Moreover, supreme experts usually had soul defensive divine artifacts, so these things were useless to them. But the strange fruits were different. The strange fruits were divided into combat, defense, soul, speed, and cultivation aids. In the past, when 1 or 2 strange fruits appeared, the Li clan wouldn't advertise it too much. Moreover, a portion of the strange fruits were won by the Li clan themselves, so how could they have a chance? But this time it was different. There were all kinds of strange fruits. Those who wanted to strengthen their attack could bid for the offensive fruit, and those who wanted to strengthen their defense could bid for the defensive fruit. As long as you could afford the price, you could get what you wanted. Moreover, following the appearance of this batch of strange fruits, everyone started to search for the source of these strange fruits. One had to know that it was very unusual for there to be so many strange fruits appearing at the same time. The reason behind this was really thought-provoking. The beautiful woman beside Li Huang left, and then she brought up a batch of green jade boxes. Without any nonsense, Li Huang directly spoke. Next, we will auction the strange fruits. First, we will auction the ordinary strange fruits, with 5 of each type of strange fruit. The first 50 will be auctioned, and the remaining 50 will be auctioned separately. Now, we will auction the first one. The starting price is 20 billion, and each increment must be no less than 5 billion. As soon as Li Huang's words came out, Yi Qinghan was shocked. This auction was too ruthless, wasn't it? The starting price was 20 billion, and on average, it was 4 billion each, and each increment must be no less than 5 billion. This price was a little high. I want 5, and each one is priced at 200 billion. Just as Li Huang finished speaking, a voice rang out, causing everyone in the auction hall to faint, including Li Huang and Li He, and it even caused Yi Qinghan to faint. The one who spoke was the supreme expert in Private Room 1, and he directly asked for 5, and each one was actually 200 billion. In other words, each fruit was actually worth 40 billion. This far exceeded the expectations of Yi Qinghan and Li He. Moreover, he wanted 5 at once. The two of them had originally planned to sell these ordinary fruits for 10 billion godstones, which would be pretty good already. I want 5 as well, and each one is priced at 200 billion. Before everyone could recover from their shock, the owner of Private Room 2, who'd been silent until now, spoke. The voice wasn't transmitted through communication jades, and everyone was able to clearly discern that it was the voice of a middle-aged man. However, it was precisely this ordinary voice that shocked countless people in the auction hall. Even Li Bai's eyes lit up. Some of them had heard this voice before. It was the voice of Exalt Li Quan. Exalt Li Quan had arrived, and he was even sitting in Private Room 2. At this moment, everyone finally understood why Exalt Fragrance would lower herself to sit in the third private room. It was because Exalt Li Quan's strength was ranked above Exalt Fragrance's, and he was even the host. Meanwhile, everyone was even more curious about the identity of the owner of Private Room 1, because Exalt Li Quan's tone was exactly the same as the owner of Private Room 1. It was obvious that he was trying to support him and flatter him. I want 5 as well, and each one is priced at 200 billion. Exalt Fragrance spoke once more, and she asked for 5 as well. I want 5 as well, and each one is priced at the same price. Me too. Subsequently, Yi Qinghan and everyone else was dumbstruck, because starting from Private Room 4 to 10, everyone directly asked for 5 fruits, and each of them was priced at 200 billion. Moreover, towards the end, there were even a few guests in private rooms that spoke at the same time, as if they were afraid that there would be none left if they were too late. Li Huang was stunned. Motherfucker, how is this an auction? They're directly bidding for the fruits. Although the prices exceeded their budget, this is against the rules. 10 trillion godstones. A black light flashed in Yi Qinghan's eyes, and he noticed that everything in front of him was filled with godstones. Only 250 ordinary strange fruits have been sold for 10 trillion godstones. It looks like it'll be very difficult for me to not get rich this time. Li He, who was standing outside Private Room 1, also felt a wave of dizziness. He knew that with so many big shots here, this batch of strange fruits would definitely be auctioned for a high price, but he didn't expect such an outcome. Of course, he understood that this was all because of the owner of the private room in front of him. This person was obviously supporting Yi Qinghan, but the other person was supporting him. Li Huang had settled. Exalt Li Quan gave the order, and the helpless Li Huang heaved a sigh of relief. The first batch of strange fruits was successfully sold, and they were sold for a sky-high price. Chapter 799. The next 50 ordinary mutant fruits were auctioned off without a hitch. Each of them was sold for more than 20 billion divine stones, which made Yi Qinghan very happy. He thought to himself, if the Lord in Private Room 1 also took the lead to bid for these top-grade mutant fruits, I'll be rich today. Things went beyond Yi Qinghan's expectations. The Lord in Private Room 1 didn't say anything else. Instead, Supremacy Li Quan took the lead to bid for a defensive mutant fruit and a mutant fruit that could assist in cultivation, directly bidding 1 trillion divine stones. This caused Yi Qinghan's eyes to be filled with black divine stones once again. With Supremacy Li Quan taking the lead, the prices of the following mutant fruits could be imagined. Divine stones were just a few numbers to the patriarchs of the super clans. However, it was obvious that the Lord and Supremacy Li Quan were very supportive today. They were also willing to spend a bit more divine stones to give the two some face, so that they could meet again in the future. Thus, after all 320 mutant fruits were auctioned off, Yi Qinghan fainted for a long time before waking up. Even Empress Yu and the others fainted for a while. Wu Shan kept swallowing his saliva and rubbing his eyes. This batch of mutant fruits that could be sold for about 5 trillion divine stones were auctioned off for 21 trillion divine stones. After deducting the processing fees to the Li clan, they still had about 20 trillion divine stones left. Li also fainted. This profit was a small matter, but after this auction, the name of the Li clan's auction house would be completely shaken. There was no doubt that they would become the #1 auction house on the continent. In the future, there would be an endless supply of divine stones. He was incomparably glad that he had made friends with this little brother Yi Qinghan. This little brother indeed had the qualifications to be on equal footing with him. Yi Qinghan returned to the courtyard of joy in a daze. Today had given him too many shocks. When he returned and told the Thunder Emperor about it, the latter was even more delighted. With so many divine stones, the Thunder Emperor's original plan for building a city had been completely overturned. He had decided to build a super large city that could rival Leaping Spring City. Time was of the essence. The Thunder Emperor decided to act immediately, but he didn't appear. He also didn't dare to continue buying construction materials in Leaping Spring City. He had Wu Shan and Feng Qi each bring a few 100 million divine stones to the nearby prefectures to buy materials. The Thunder Monarch believed that if the two of them were not fools, they would definitely not covet these divine stones. After all, once the new city was built, there would be an endless supply of parangons. Although Yi Qinghan's background wasn't clear, it was only the tip of the iceberg that had been revealed. Lei Zhen and Yu Ho started to design the layout of the new city. Lei Yanhua and Yi Yao Rao had nothing to do, so they joined in. Yi Qinghan went into seclusion once again. Firstly, he refined the supreme-grade soul jade, and secondly, he tried to break through to the God King realm. Since Yi Qinghan had promised Li Shui'er to attend his coming-of-age ceremony, he could only resist the urge to rush into the teleportation array and wait for another month. Although he wasn't sure what Li Shui'er would ask him to do, but from the fact that Li Shui'er had asked him if he could defeat young Master Tu Xie, she might need him to take action. Since he was going to take action, it wouldn't be wrong to be stronger. Entering the War Monarch Palace, Yi Qinghan first refined the Soul Jade according to the method taught by Yu Ho. He dripped his blood on it and used his god power to make the Soul Jade disappear from his hand. Using his divine sense, the Soul Jade had indeed appeared above his Soul Sea. Furthermore, it had appeared on the black bridge between Yi Qinghan's two souls. It was emitting a gentle white light that complemented the green light outside of Yi Qinghan's Soul Sea. It was extremely beautiful. Yi Qinghan immediately entered the soul silent state and realized that the growth of his soul was indeed 2 times faster than before. This was even before the Soul Jade had completely fused with his soul. According to Yu Ho's estimation, once the Soul Jade was completely fused, Yi Qinghan would enter the soul silent state, and his soul would grow 3 times faster. 2 souls revolved at the same time. Yi Qinghan started to fuse the special mystic art, so close, yet worlds apart. At the same time, he opened up all the restrictions in the palace. The god aura inside the palace was 10 times stronger than outside. As he comprehended the mystic art, the god crystals and meridians in his body operated at full force, absorbing the god aura and transforming it into god power. The auction had ended, but these absolute formidable martial artists, the clan heads and elders of the great families, did not leave. Under Supremacy Li Quan's invitation, they waited for Li Shui's coming-of-age ceremony. Of course, most of them stayed behind to find out where this batch of strange fruits came from. The news had not been kept under wraps for long. Perhaps someone had purposely released it. This batch of strange fruits came from the soul-devouring manor. It was said that Supremacy Butterfly Dance had found them on an island in the Wandering Sea. Most formidable martial artists agreed with this news. After all, the Seal God Valley was the second most dangerous place on the continent. It was not so easy to break the seal. What's more, if the seal was forcefully broken, there would definitely be a huge commotion. However, no news had spread during this period of time. The Phoenix Glow Mountain Range was peaceful. Of course, the Phoenix Glow Mountain Range was peaceful. Under the instructions of Yi Qing Han and the Thunder the Arch, the Wind Arch and the Demon Arch had captured all the god bandits and spies who had barged into the mountain. They had also forced them to send a message back. Everything was normal here. Some people believed it. Of course, some didn't. For example, Li Hai. Li Hai had not been doing well recently. Although he had not done much wrong in that matter, it was obvious that Li He was trying to rope in Yi Qing Han. He had no choice but to suffer. He had been promoted from the Guard Army's deputy commander, who controlled the lives and deaths of tens of billions of god-tier martial artists in Dripping Spring City. He had been transferred to the Scout Hall's senior commander, who was in charge of intelligence on the continent. It looked like he had been promoted from a deputy commander to a senior commander. However, anyone who understood the situation knew that Li Hai's future was bleak. Although the Scout Hall was a hall, it only had a few thousand people. What's more, they were all low-grade martial artists. What kind of person was Supremacy Li Quan? If there was any important news, countless people would report it to him immediately. What's more, the continent's various prefectures were in charge of their own affairs. You play with your women, I play with my birds. Nobody had anything to do with each other. What's more, the continent was at peace. What kind of important news could there be? Hence, Li Hai blamed all the humiliation and treatment he had suffered on Yi Qing Han. He made full use of his authority as a senior commander. He started to mobilize the thousands of people under him to collect all the information he could about Yi Qing Han. In the end, he really discovered a huge problem. Yi Qing Han came from Beacon Smoke Manor's Nether City. The people around him bought countless city construction materials. Recently, one of his two subordinates went to Beacon Smoke Manor. The other went to the North's Golden Horn Manor. They both brought large amounts of divine stones to buy city construction materials. Furthermore, they even invited a famous array formation master of the continent in Beacon Smoke Manor. He was very clear that there was something fishy going on here, but he did not understand what Yi Qing Han was doing. Furthermore, the news that the scouts who went to Phoenix Glow Mountain Range sent back was that everything was normal. He did not report the news up. He knew the relationship between Li He City Lord and Yi Qing Han. He also knew that the Exalted Lord seemed to value Yi Qing Han very much. He was waiting for an opportunity. Furthermore, he felt that this opportunity would not let him wait for too long. Chapter 800. At the same time, there were many people investigating Yi Qing Han. Young Master Tu Xie was one of them. Young Master Tu Xie's information network was much better than that of Leaping Ocean, because he was from Misty City and was Venerable Evil Moon's favorite disciple. Naturally, many people in Misty City had to give him face. He only sent a message to Misty City, and the entire information department of Misty City began to operate at high speed. Information on Yi Qing Han was extracted bit by bit and organized into a file, which was sent to Leaping Spring City. Yi Qing Han and Thunder Monarch had underestimated young Master Tu Xie's power. In less than 3 days, all the information on Yi Qing Han's arrival in the Divine Realm had been dug out. Of course, there were still some details that were unknown. However, Yi Qing Han ascended from the material plane decades ago and fell into the baleful Yin stream. He became the Frigid Night War God and fell into the Sealed God Valley. The last place he appeared was Nether City. Just this information alone would allow young Master Tu Xie to do many things. Yi Qing Han, the Frigid Night War God. Elder Tu Hua, I seem to remember that Golden Horn residence is also looking for a person called Yi Qinghan. Send this information to the crippled emperor. I think he will be very interested." Young Master Tu Xie coldly snorted a few times and said to a netherworld race elder behind him with a gloomy expression. Then he turned to look at another Grand Elder and said, "Grand Elder Tu Shan, I remember that our flame dragon plane was seized, and the Lord was also called Yi Qinghan, and our young master Yi seems to be closely related to that woman in the north. Although his registration information is in the Huaxia plane, I feel that they are the same person. Go to Floating City again and confirm if our young master Yi's soul information is the same. If it is the same, it will be really fun this time. Young master, this matter needs to be discussed at length. That woman is not someone we can offend." Elder Tu Shan frowned and reminded, "No worries." Young Master Tu Xie's lips curled into a mocking smile. "I'm not that stupid. Even if this is true, I won't make a move. But I think a lot of people will want to make a move. Although that woman is powerful, this continent is still ruled by a sovereign, isn't it?" The Doyen sighed and could only turn around and leave. Although young Master Tu Xie's strength was not high, his status was extraordinary. In the clan, other than the patriarch, his words were the law. Since he had decided on something, even young Master Tu Xie couldn't go against it. "If no one had treated me like this, I would still be able to live. My dear Lord Yi, you won't be able to live much longer." After the two of them left, young Master Tu Xie laughed sinisterly in an empty room. Although he wasn't sure what was going to happen, he had a strong feeling that something big was about to happen. What Lei Zhen and the others did not know was that many pairs of eyes were secretly watching them. It was true that Lei Zhen was strong, but he had always been the commander of the clan's battle hall. Aside from fighting and training, he didn't know much else. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been trapped in the conferred God Valley. The Rain Empress was even more of an idiot in this aspect. Feng Qi and Wu Shan knew a little, but they were unfamiliar with the place and had just come out from the conferred God Valley. Thus, they had carelessly overlooked it. Most importantly, they all believed that they had 4 7th-grade war gods, several hundred supreme experts, and over 100,000 Yi family soldiers. Even if someone discovered that they were preparing to build a city, they would be able to withstand it. Furthermore, they believed that before the city was built, the sovereign's decree of the floating city would have already been applied for. There wouldn't be any slip-ups. Even the Thunder Emperor and the Rain Empress didn't care, so Yi Qinghan definitely wouldn't think about it. At this moment, he was in a deep state of soul stillness. He was fusing with his unique mysteries at a speed that was several times faster than others. After 20 days of seclusion, his divine power had already reached the peak of the divine general realm. Now, he only needed to fuse the nomological laws to break through to the divine king realm. Yi Qinghan had been in seclusion for 29 days. In the 2 seas of souls, 2 green figures were rushing toward the middle grade one. The soul jade on top of their heads was emitting a gentle white radiance. After the 2 figures collided, they instantly fused together and turned into a single figure. This figure traversed between the 2 seas of souls. His figure was graceful, sometimes turning into a gust of wind, and sometimes disappearing. He was like a ghost in the night, and his footwork was incomparably strange. Originally, this peculiar mystery was about to be fused to the great success stage. After a month of seclusion, he finally succeeded, as the figure traversed cheerfully in the Sea of Souls. Unknown to Yi Qinghan, a shocking change suddenly occurred in the sky, 10,000 miles above dripping Spring City. Rumble, 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 rumble. All of a sudden, tens of thousands of miles above the sky, several 5-colored clouds floated over from an unknown place. These clouds had a terrifying aura and emitted 5-colored radiance. They were filled with an aura that could destroy heaven and earth. At the same time, they were filled with an extremely dense aura of the origin of heaven and earth. A frightening golden lightning flickered and wandered among the 5-colored clouds. Electric snakes coiled around it, and sparks flew in all directions. The lightning was filled with the violent energy of life and death. The floating clouds and lightning enveloped the entire dripping spring city within 100 miles radius. At this moment, the space within 100 miles seemed to have solidified. Even the wind stopped blowing. The birds and small demonic beasts that were flying in the sky all landed on the ground. The entire place was filled with that terrifying aura. These five-colored clouds and golden lightning, when compared to the dark clouds and white lightning created by the sealed God Valley's restrictions, were like a huge mountain compared to a huge mountain. The lightning of the sealed God Valley could easily blast the 7th grade mountain's Cloud Emperor into pieces. This lightning, the billions of God realm martial artists in Dripping Spring City were all alarmed at this moment. Countless people in the city instantly fell limp to the ground. They looked at the terrifying floating clouds and golden lightning in the sky with horrified expressions. They didn't even have the strength to move their bodies. Some people even had yellow, stinky liquid flowing out of their pants. Swish. Within the restaurants by the dripping river and the pavilions of the dripping water pavilions, countless figures rapidly soared into the sky. These were the supreme experts that lived in Dripping Spring City. Many of them were the elders and patriarchs of the superclans. These were all people that could transcend the heavens. However, at this moment, all the supreme experts' faces were filled with astonishment and doubt. They silently looked at the floating clouds that were slowly moving in the sky, and the golden lightning that was getting thicker and thicker, moving faster and faster like a real dragon. Their bodies were tense, and they didn't dare to make a single sound. What is this? The auspicious clouds don't look like auspicious clouds, and the lightning is even more golden. This is definitely not a heaven and earth anomaly caused by someone breaking through to the God realm. Furthermore, this is the divine world. Shouldn't heaven and earth anomalies only appear in material planes? What's going on? Could it be? Could it be? How is this possible? How is this possible? It's very possible. According to the records of my clan, when the Misty Monarch became a 9th grade invincible war god, there was also a heaven and earth anomaly. Apart from this, no other heaven and earth anomaly has ever appeared in the divine world. Heavens, we actually witnessed the birth of a 9th grade 5 Emperor war god. Who is he? Countless voice transmissions started to spread crazily in Dripping Spring City. The supreme experts and those who could move started to spread the news. It was too abnormal for a heaven and earth anomaly to appear in the divine world. Furthermore, it was such a terrifying heaven and earth anomaly. No one doubted that once this golden lightning struck down, the entire Dripping Spring City would be turned into dust. Apart from a few people who could escape with their lives, billions of people would die. Countless people started to speculate if there was a supreme expert who had broken through to 9th grade invincible war god and become a true invincible god emperor. A true supreme expert who stood at the pinnacle of the divine world with disdain. Buzz! Suddenly, there was a ripple in space, and 3 figures appeared in the sky above the group of supreme experts. One of the 3 figures was a middle-aged man in a white robe, the other was a young man in a purple robe, and the one in front was a fiery red figure. It was obvious that it was a woman. She had a slim figure, and her face could not be seen clearly. Greetings to the 3 venerable ones. The supreme experts in the sky all bowed and cupped their hands in greeting. The martial artists in the city below, who could move also, hurriedly bowed. Only an 8th grade war god or above could appear in the air and teleport. The 3 of them stood proudly in the sky and looked at the extremely terrifying heaven and earth anomaly. Their expressions did not change at all. The middle-aged man in the white robe was Venerable Li Quan. He sent a voice transmission to Li He and asked him to stabilize the city. Only then did he exchange a glance with the purple-robed Venerable Fragrance. They released their god domains to prevent others from hearing their conversation. The 2 of them cupped their hands at the red-robed woman in front of them and said, "My lady, is this the heaven and earth anomaly of the birth of an invincible war god?" "It doesn't look like it." The woman did not turn around. Her voice was faint and filled with doubt. "I feel like this is the law of heaven and earth preparing to bestow a martial artist with origin energy. This martial artist must have done something shocking that even the law of heaven and earth is affected. Chapter 801. Power of Origin. Honorable Li Quan and Honorable Fragrance's expressions changed for the first time. The horrifying phenomenon in the sky did not move them, but the red-robed woman's words shocked them. Of course, I'm not sure. Let's wait and see. The red-robed woman said indifferently and became completely silent. Honorable Li Quan and Honorable Fragrance did not speak. The three of them did not make any moves and just stood proudly in the sky with their hands clasped behind their backs. The roar in the sky became louder and louder. The golden lightning also became bigger and faster. The sky was filled with dancing electric snakes and sparks. The world-destroying aura in the air became more violent. The martial artists in the city calmed down after the three honorable masters appeared. Since the three honorable masters did not say anything and did not allow anyone to escape, then it should be fine. However, the aura still made the lower 5th grade war god martial artists unable to stand up straight. What's going on? The Thunder Emperor and the Rain Empress noticed it immediately. However, the Thunder Emperor did not want to reveal himself, so the Rain Empress did not go out. Lei Jun released his aura and protected Yi Yaorao and Lei Yinhua. He used his supreme aura to resist the heavenly might. Boom! An earth-shattering sound reverberated in all directions. A dazzling ray of light shone from the 5-colored floating cloud. A thick thunderbolt finally whizzed out from the cloud. The entire world seemed to be trembling at this moment. The dazzling white light instantly blinded all the martial artists in the city. The loud roar deafened everyone's ears. At this moment, no one could even release their divine sense. The complexions of the cultivators below completely changed. Their faces were ashen and their bodies stiffened. The experts in the sky also changed. Their bodies shone with divine power and released their strongest defense. However, their bodies still trembled slightly. At this moment, Honorable Fragrance and Honorable Li Quan's expressions changed as well. They knew that this was a natural phenomenon and not the world-destroying lightning. They naturally thought that this lightning would not harm anyone. However, they did not expect that they could not see clearly and their ears would go deaf. Most importantly, they could not even release a trace of their divine sense. How long had it been? How long had it been since they had encountered such an uncontrollable situation? All of the 10 billion people in the city were terrified, except for one person. The eyes of the red-robed woman in the sky suddenly lit up, and her blurry face began to return to normal. If Yi Qinghan saw him, he would jump up in astonishment. This man was the king of the dark forest, the king of the fire dragon continent, Lord Devour. Lord Devour's eyes twinkled like the brightest star in the dark night. Her bright eyes gazed at the lightning bolt that looked like an ancient dragon. Her soul consciousness shot out without reservation, entering a pavilion together with the lightning bolt. The violent thunder and lightning that carried the aura of annihilation came crashing down. Even the sparks from the side enveloped all the supreme experts in the air. Finally, it shot into a pavilion beside Lei Shui and disappeared. What was strange was that when such a terrifying thunderbolt struck down, not only was the supreme expert in midair unharmed, but even the pavilion that had fallen into it was completely unharmed. It's fighting. At this moment, Lord Devour's eyes brightened, his face thrilled. Then he resumed his original look, and his face became blurry. Lord, what happened? Venerable Li Quan and Venerable Piaoxiang, who were standing next to him, suddenly recovered, their faces frightened as they asked Lord Devour. I'm not sure, Lord Devour answered faintly, disappearing into the sky all of a sudden. Venerable Li Quan and Venerable Piaoxiang exchanged looks, watching the 5-colored divine clouds disappearing in the sky. Their soul consciousness raked through the entire Lei Shui city, but they didn't find anything. They sighed begrudgingly, disappearing into the sky. What happened? Until the moment Lord Devour left, the experts in the sky got their minds back. They were frightened, trying to ask around. However, Just like Venerable Li Quan and Venerable Piaoxiang, they couldn't find anything. The Thunder Emperor and the Rain Empress didn't find anything either. Yi Yaorao and Lei Yanhua were still unconscious. Except for Lord Devour. There was another person who had found something. Mother Asterisk Kerr, what is this? Yi Qing'an had just completed the fusion of the mysterious mysteries close, yet poles apart, breaking through to the king god realm. He was about to go out and tell the others the good news. However, as soon as he opened his eyes, he saw a massive golden lightning strike down from the sky, smashing toward him. He was so scared that his soul left his body, rolling on the ground. Swish! However, the speed of the lightning was frighteningly fast, directly enveloping Yi Qinghan's entire body. Yi Qinghan's heart surged with despair, but in his heart, he was so angry that he kept cursing. Wasn't this Battle Emperor the #1 restriction expert in the world? Where did this lightning come from? If it came from the outside, what was the use of this restriction? And he said that his defense was strong? If it came from the inside, it was even more ridiculous. However, what surprised Yi Qinghan was that he only felt his body tremble and his soul tremble. After that, nothing happened to him. Mother Asterisk Kerr, did I see a ghost in broad daylight? Yi Qinghan crawled up and looked around in bewilderment. Eventually, he looked above his head and used his divine senses to scan the entire sky, but he didn't find anything. He sat cross-legged and looked inside. His body was fine, the divine crystals were fine, the 2 soul seas were fine, and the soul jade above the soul sea was fine. That bridge was still above the 2 souls, and there was nothing wrong with it. No! Why did the bridge turn white? Yi Qinghan suddenly opened his eyes wide. He was so scared that his legs went soft again. What was the soul? The soul was the Mother Asterisk Kerr, the root of a martial artist. Why did it mutate again? After being dazed for a long time, he looked inside again and found that the bridge in his soul sea was really white, and there was a cloud of white mist floating in the middle of the bridge. It was like a ball of floating cotton, moving left and right, but it didn't leave the bridge. What the F***CK is this thing? Why is there an extra cloud of this thing in my soul sea? I've seen a ghost. I've really seen a ghost. Yi Qinghan was completely frightened. This soul sea wasn't something else. Limbs could be broken, and even divine crystals could be broken, but nothing could happen to the soul. If something happened, he wouldn't even know how he died. After checking it dozens of times and trying many methods, Yi Qinghan finally found that no matter whether he believed it or not, this white cotton thing was staying there and couldn't be chased away. His mighty black bridge had also been dyed white by it. Most importantly, this thing didn't have any use at all, no benefits, and no disadvantages. After 2 days of trouble in the War Emperor Palace, Yi Qinghan came out helplessly. The entire Dripping Spring City was also troubled for 2 days, and Li Shui's coming-of-age ceremony was also delayed to 3 days later. Looking at the situation, Supremacy Li Quan was prepared to struggle for another 3 days to see if he could find any clues to find that person. After Yi Qinghan flashed out of the War Emperor Palace, he saw Yi Yaorao and Lei Yanhua chatting in his room. He quickly asked with a guilty conscience, "Did you guys see a huge lightning bolt?" Chapter 802. Brother Yi, you're out of seclusion? Lightning? I didn't see it. Lei Yanhua blinked her eyes and shook her head. Then, she tilted her head cutely and said, "But I was scared to death yesterday. It was so loud. Sister Lan Yu said that there was an anomaly yesterday. Even the 3 supremacies were alarmed. All the spies in the city are now flying around." Qinghan, weren't you in seclusion? Why did you see the lightning too? Yi Qianrao frowned and asked curiously. Me? I felt something was wrong. I just broke through to the king god realm, so I came out to take a look. Yi Qinghan didn't dare to admit it. Only the Rain Empress and Xiao He knew that he had 2 souls. He didn't want them to look at him like he was a monster. He quickly asked, what exactly happened? And what about the 3 supremacies? Tell me in detail. Lei Yanhua's eyes lit up when she recalled what had happened yesterday. She quickly told Yi Qinghan everything that Lei Zhen and the Rain Empress had told her. When Yi Qinghan heard that Lei Zhen and Yu Ho were struck by lightning. They couldn't see or hear anything. Their divine senses couldn't detect anything either. Even Yi Yaorao and Lei Yinhua fainted. Only then did he relax. However, he was even more confused. How did this lightning enter the War Imperial Hall? One had to know that the War Imperial Hall was in a parallel space, and the only key to enter that parallel space was in the black stone in his divine crystal. Logically speaking, there should be no other way to enter the War Imperial Hall after he used it. This ghostly lightning was truly strange. However, since the Thunder Emperor and the Rain Empress couldn't discover that the lightning had entered the War Imperial Hall, then no one else could either. Yi Qinghan's mood instantly lightened up. However, when he thought of the anomaly, he became extremely confused. What was going on? He had fused a profound mystery to great success, and it shocked the heavens and earth? Wasn't this too exaggerated? Of course, Yi Qinghan did not dare to pursue the matter too much. He made a trip to the Thunder Emperor and the Rain Empress and discovered that the two of them were excitedly designing the new city. As for Yi Qinghan, they only asked him a few questions as per usual. Clearly, he did not realize that Yi Qinghan could cause such a huge phenomenon. Instead, it gave Yi Qinghan the chance to go to the Li clan and ask if they had found anything. What made Yi Qinghan a little excited was that the Rain Empress said that the strongest person in Private Room 1 had appeared, and it was a red-robed woman. Although he couldn't see the face, Yi Qinghan had a vague feeling that this person was most likely Lord Devour. Not long after, Li Bai came to visit and told Yi Qinghan the news that Li Shui's coming-of-age ceremony was delayed by 3 days. Of course, Yi Qinghan beat around the bush and asked about the phenomenon. In the end, Li Bai said that countless experts in Dripping Spring City were dizzy and no one knew what had happened. And from Li He's tone, it seemed that even Supremacy Li Quan was very confused. With this, Yi Qinghan was even more at ease. He entered the War Imperial Palace again and carefully checked the restrictions inside. He discovered that they were all intact. He used his inner vision to study the ball of cotton in his mind for 2 days, but he still found nothing. Yi Qinghan decided he could not tell anyone about this. This matter would become an important secret, just like how he was a shameless transmigrator. He planned to bury it in his heart. He was very clear that if this matter were to be leaked, he would definitely be captured by all the supreme experts in the continent, or even the immortal realm, and dissected for research. After all, such a terrifying and powerful phenomenon would definitely make countless people want to know what this phenomenon represented. After thinking and studying for 3 days, Yi Qinghan's state of mind calmed down again. As the saying goes, a dead pig doesn't fear boiling water. His soul had already become 2. So would he care about the ball of cotton in his soul's sea? 3 days later, Li Bai came early in the morning to invite Yi Qinghan to attend Li Shui's coming-of-age ceremony. Thunder Monarch still didn't show up, and Fengqi Wushan was still buying materials. In the end, Yi Qinghan brought thunder fireworks and Yi Yaorao along. The coming-of-age ceremony was at Dripping Water Pavilion. However, it wasn't in the pavilion, but in the backyard of Dripping Water Pavilion, on an incomparably wide grassland. Wow, it's so lively. Under Li Bai's lead, Yi Qinghan walked into the backyard of Dripping Water Pavilion. At a glance, the spacious grassland was filled with square tables, and there were thousands of them. These square tables formed a square and formed a circle, and they were filled with fine wine and delicacies. At this moment, other than the northern table, which was empty, the other 3 seats were filled with people. There were young masters who were dressed up beautifully, and there were also famous absolute experts. In the middle, there were hundreds of beautiful maidservants who were dancing gracefully, and the sounds of bamboo and bamboo instruments were echoing incessantly. There were also countless maidservants walking among these distinguished guests, providing warm services. When Yi Qinghan appeared, he naturally attracted everyone's attention. Swish, swish, swish. Everyone's eyes swept over. The intentional actions of the supreme expert in Private Room Number 1 had caused young Master Ye's reputation to skyrocket. He suppressed all the exceptional young masters, and even some of the less famous Manor Lord class experts weren't as famous as young Master Yi. Yi Qinghan cupped his hands in a friendly manner, but he wasn't arrogant and insufferably arrogant. He was very clear that his strength was his own, and everything else was just fleeting clouds. If you didn't work hard, even if you had a heaven-defying background, you would still be looked down upon by others, and you would be useless. If you really wanted to be valued and respected by others, then you must climb up step by step. When you stood proudly at the peak, you would realize that other people's opinions really weren't important. Little brother Yi, there were many things to do today, so I didn't specially welcome you. Li came very quickly and politely arranged for Yi Qinghan to sit at the 10th square table on the left in front. When Yi Qinghan discovered that the seats below him were actually all Manor Lord class experts, he felt a wave of bitterness in his heart. Sometimes being too famous wasn't a good thing. The tallest tree in the forest would definitely be destroyed by the wind. He sat quietly with the three girls and greeted the guests at the two nearby square tables with a smile. Yi Qinghan quickly made up his mind to keep a low profile today. He wouldn't make a move unless a knife was placed on his neck. Along with the passage of time, there were more and more experts present, and Li Bai simply sat by Yi Qinghan's side and didn't leave. He transmitted his voice to Yi Qinghan and introduced the supreme experts present here, allowing Yi Qinghan to broaden his horizons. Yi Qinghan secretly remembered the strength, status, and names of these people. When Li Bai introduced a Manor Lord expert sitting at the 23rd table opposite him, Yi Qinghan's eyes shrank. His face didn't show any expression, but his heart was secretly on guard. Crippled Emperor, the Manor Lord of Golden Horn Prefecture, a 7th-grade war god, the king of the Golden Horn clan. Yi Qinghan clearly remembered that when the Golden Horn god clan had descended upon the Fire Dragon continent, more than half of the continent's experts had been killed or injured. Even the Sword Emperor had died in that battle. It was also that battle that forced him to seek refuge on the Purple Island, which also led to Yi Ruoshui's death. This person knew that the 12th Divine Sword had appeared, and he also knew that the Divine Sword was in the hands of the Fire Dragon continent's humans. It was highly possible that it was in the hands of the Fire Dragon continent's lord, Yi Qinghan. Perhaps he already knew that he was that Yi Qinghan. This person had to be killed when he had the chance. Yi Qinghan quickly came to a conclusion in his heart. This was a very dangerous hidden danger. If the news that he had the Divine Sword was exposed, even with Lord Devour's reputation, there would be many people who would plot against him. Not long after, almost all the guests had arrived. After all, this was a formal occasion, and it was impossible to be late. The row of seats in the north was also full. The only empty ones were the 4 white jade square tables. Buzz! All of a sudden, the space trembled. Everybody stopped talking, and what they were doing, standing up at the same time. Yi Qinghan's heart tightened. He knew that the main character had arrived. However, he was a little disappointed at first glance. He saw 3 people, a white-clothed middle-aged man, a purple-clothed young man, and Li Shui, who was held by the white-clothed middle-aged man. Obviously, the strongest expert in the first private room hadn't appeared yet. Thus, Yi Qinghan couldn't confirm whether this person was Lord Devour or not. Chapter 803. Greetings to Supremacy Li Quan. Greetings to Supremacy Piaoxiang. Greetings to young Lady Shui Le. Everyone greeted, giving the 2 supremacies enough face. Even Li Shui accepted everyone's greetings. Today, Li Shui wore a snow-white dress with her hair tied up in a ponytail, revealing her snow-white neck. Her ears were adorned with 2 strings of pink beads. She had a faint smile on her face, looking elegant and charming. The white-robed Supremacy Li Quan gestured for everyone to sit down. Then, he smiled and said, "Welcome to my daughter's coming-of-age ceremony. Little Shui spent 8,500 years to break through the God Arch realm and transform into a human. I am very happy, very proud, very proud." Supremacy Li Quan didn't conceal his fondness for Li Shui, his admiration for her exceptional talent, and his pride for having such a daughter. His words were spoken naturally, and the crowd didn't find it harsh at all. Instead, more young masters were excited. Obtaining Li Shui was equivalent to obtaining half of the Li Quan estate. These words weren't wrong. Young Lady Shui is a genius. As a super divine beast and the little princess of the Li clan, she is so diligent in her cultivation. This is indeed rare. Young Lady Shui has a gentle temperament and character. She doesn't have the slightest bit of impulsiveness. Young Lady Shui is like a dazzling pearl in the deepest part of the Star Sea. Young Lady Shui, in an instant, all the young masters stood up, and all sorts of flattery could be heard. Yi Qinghan smiled faintly, but he didn't go up. Instead, he observed the young masters around him quietly. He noticed that young Master Tu Xie was also smiling faintly. This young Master Tu Xie might be arrogant, but he wasn't stupid. Words were always so powerless in this world. Only true strength was the most important. Ha! Thank you for your compliments. If you continue, my daughter will become Sundara. Supremacy Li Quan waved his hand, gesturing for the flattery to stop. There were close to 1,000 young masters present, and they wouldn't be able to finish praising them in a few days. Li Shui was also very sensible. She smiled faintly, pulled her skirt, and bowed. Enough with the pleasantries. In fact, there is an important matter today. My daughter must choose a prospective husband today. This is also the reason why I invited most of the young masters of the continent. As long as any of you can win my daughter's favor and eventually get married, I will gift 50 cities to him. Venerable Li Quan's words were like a clap of thunder from a few days ago, completely stunning all the young masters and supreme experts present. Even Venerable Piao Xiang opened her mouth in astonishment. On the other hand, Li Shui's face was calm, only revealing faint shyness and helplessness. Yi Qinghan blinked his eyes and looked at thunder after the rain, fireworks, and night alluring. The four of them looked at each other. Had Venerable Li Quan gone mad? Was he afraid that his daughter wouldn't be able to get married? Must I choose a future husband today? And he even said in front of everyone that he wanted to give 50 cities as a dowry? Everyone felt dizzy for a few seconds. It should be known that all the young masters and supreme experts present had seen the world, but they were still dumbfounded by Venerable Li Quan's words. 50 cities. That was truly half of the Li Quan Manor. Venerable Li Quan had ruled the Li Quan Manor for millions of years. The entire Li Quan Manor had been toyed with by him, and basically everyone was a member of the Li clan. With a single order from Venerable Li Quan, any little god general could take down the City Lord challenge. Yi Qing'an noticed that Li Bai wasn't surprised at all. It was obvious that this decision had been made internally in the Li clan. However, Yi Qing'an was still very puzzled. Why did Venerable Li Quan make such a decision? Especially since he had to choose a prospective husband today. This was really a little rash. All the young masters' eyes started to light up. They were like groups of fireflies flying in the dark night, or wolves hiding in the forest. Their eyes were frighteningly bright, as though they wanted to swallow someone alive. There was an ancient saying that marrying a good wife would reduce one's struggles by 20 years. As long as they could win over Li Shui, they wouldn't have to worry for generations to come. Everyone, Venerable Li Quan raised his hand again and gave everyone an explanation. Perhaps everyone feels that my decision is a little rash. Actually, there is a reason for it. I have always been unrestrained and unrestrained. I used my meager strength to stir up a storm in the divine realm. I caused many troubles and did some foolish things. It was only when I met Shui's mother in the Star Sea that my heart finally calmed down. It was a pity that Shui's mother was attacked by our enemies when she was giving birth to Shui. At that time, I was still below the 7th grade. After a bitter battle, the two of us escaped from the Star Sea and returned to the misty continent. However, Shui's mother suffered a heavy injury. After giving birth to Shui, she floated to the west. Venerable Li Quan's calm voice sounded. He told a beautiful story, but it was a pity that the story ended in tragedy. His calm voice contained soaring anger and boundless desolation. The entire place was silent. Li Shui's face was already covered in tears. Lei Hua and the other two, beside Yi Qinghan, also had tears in their eyes. Before Shui's mother passed away, she asked me to find the most exceptional young master in the continent for Shui. She also said that on the day of Shui-er's coming-of-age ceremony, Shui-er should bring her husband to pay respects to her. She wanted me to give Shui-er the grandest wedding. For this goal, I worked tirelessly and finally became Venerable Li Quan. I have Li Quan residence. I want to give my daughter the grandest wedding. Everyone here is an exceptional young master. As long as you think you are exceptional, then bring it on. Use your shocking talents to move my daughter. Once Venerable Li Quan's words landed, the entire place erupted. If Yi Qinghan didn't have any misgivings about Li Shui or being a divine beast, just based on Venerable Li Quan's words and the shocking dowry, he would have done it too. Of course, Yi Qinghan's point of view was not correct. Once a divine beast transformed into a human, it was no different from a human. The people of the god realm naturally had no misgivings. Perhaps this was Yi Qinghan's previous life's influence. He always felt that human and beast intercourse was something that only the people of the island would do. Many of the experts present were excited by the atmosphere, and they wished they could be a few 100,000 years younger. Unfortunately, Li Quan's city lord limited the age of the young masters. They could only be younger than 100 years and couldn't have a wife. Li Shui was a super divine beast. Although she had cultivated for more than 8,000 years, she was no different from a young girl who had just grown up. She was a perfect match for a young master within 100 years. These experts were clear that the 50 cities weren't important. What was important was the feelings Venerable Li Quan had for Li Shui-er. As long as he got Li Shui-er, whoever dared to touch him would have to wait for Venerable Li Quan to bring countless experts of the Li family to hunt them down. Little man, go up later and perform well. Maybe this half of Li Quan residence will be yours. Rain Empress revealed a trace of craftiness in her eyes. She used her arm to nudge Yi Qinghan and giggled. That's right, big brother Yi. Take down big sister Shui-er. Don't let an outsider take advantage of her. Lei Yinhua's eyes lit up as she said excitedly. Unexpectedly, she realized that there was something wrong with her words. She blushed. Yi Yaorao smiled faintly and didn't say anything. She was very smart. When a man had many women, it was better not to fight. The more jealous a woman was, the higher the chance of her being banished to the cold palace. Sure. Yi Qinghan glared at the few of them. He pretended to be displeased and said in a low voice, You two, don't cause trouble. We are here to watch a show today. Yi Qinghan had decided to keep a low profile and not stand out even if he was beaten to death. Didn't you see those young masters with bloodshot eyes? If he dared to stand out today, he would definitely be gang-raped by them. Chapter 804. I am Meng Lang from the Lotus Pond Manor. Today, I will throw a brick to attract jade and present a flower to Buddha to celebrate Lady Shui-er's coming-of-age ceremony. At this moment, a voice resounded. The voice was full of vigor, and the laughter was hearty and friendly, suppressing the noise in the area. Everyone looked towards the source of the voice to see how the first young master would perform. Swish! The one who spoke was a young master in a white floral robe. He looked easygoing, but there was a sense of sharpness in his easygoing manner, which made people feel that he was different from the rest. As he spoke, he gave Li Shui-er an elegant smile before suddenly disappearing from the sky. In the next second, he appeared before Li Shui-er with a golden-purple flower in his hand. He knelt down on one knee and looked at Li Shui-er with deep emotions on his face. His bearing was unparalleled. Wow! Young Master Meng Lang's move caused a commotion. Even Yi Qinghan was astonished. The skill that young Master Meng Lang used seemed to be teleportation. This was impossible. In the divine world, it was impossible to teleport below grade 8. This young Master Meng Lang was only at the 3rd level of the Divine King realm. How could it be possible? Also, there was something wrong with the golden-purple flower he was holding. Yi Qinghan felt that the flower was emitting an unusual aura. This isn't teleportation. It's a high-level, profound mystery of space. This kid is quite talented. The Rain Empress saw through Yi Qinghan's doubt and explained. That flower is a specialty of the Fragrant Flower Manor in the Grace Mainland. It's called Drunken Core Fragrance. It doesn't wither even after 100,000 years and is very beneficial for cultivation. It's worth hundreds of billions of divine stones. This person is really thoughtful. Lady Shui, you are so beautiful today. Young Master Meng Lang looked rash, but he wasn't rash at all. Although his words were direct, they seemed sincere. Li Shui received the flower and revealed a faint smile. She opened her lips and said in a melodious voice, "Thank you." Young Master Meng Lang is thoughtful. Young Master Meng Lang smiled and stood up gracefully. He nodded and didn't show off his high-level, profound mystery of space. Instead, he slowly walked back. It was obvious that young Master Meng Lang had won the first round. From the slight nod of Reverend Li Quan and Reverend Fragrance, from the envious gazes of the young masters and the appreciative gazes of the experts, one could see that this young Master Meng Lang's bearing is really not bad. Yi Qinghan also praised sincerely. His mentality was very good. He never thought that he was the best in the world. Good things were good things. Instead of being jealous, it was better to learn. Since he had learned good things, he would let others be jealous. I am Yang Shui Hua of 100 Battles House. With someone taking the lead, countless peerless young masters began to make their moves. All kinds of techniques and treasures appeared. The atmosphere was harmonious, and it was a feast for the eyes of Yi Qinghan, Lei Yinhua, and the others. That young master just used the profound mysteries of darkness, a supreme law of the universe. The Rain Empress sat on the side and explained to Yi Qinghan. She came from a large family clan, and during her time in the family clan, she had learned a lot of theoretical knowledge. Furthermore, after so many years in the Sealed God Valley, she had seen many things. The explanation allowed Yi Qinghan, a country bumpkin from the material plane, to reap a bountiful harvest. A wave of emotions surged in his heart. He had still underestimated the heroes of the world. A peerless young master who could shake an entire region definitely had something special about him. He could not be underestimated. More than 2 hours later, the harmonious atmosphere in the field was broken. A person made his move. Young Master Tu Xie. One of the young masters was about to make his move, but he was interrupted by a soaring aura. It was hard to imagine that a young, peerless young master's aura alone could move the supreme experts present. Every expert had their own aura. The profound mysteries of cultivation and status could bring about different auras for everyone. The stronger one's strength and status were, the stronger one's aura would be. The aura of a supreme expert could even cause the souls of some low-level martial artists to crumble. But today, the aura released by young Master Tu Xie, who was at the peak of the divine general realm, was comparable to some of the supreme experts present. How could they not be moved? Young Master Tu Xie's face was dignified, and his spine was ramrod straight. He slowly stood up, and his eyes were like lightning. His robe and black hair fluttered even though there was no wind. Even the space around him was faintly distorted. He was like an invincible demon descending to the mortal world, like a supreme, divine weapon coming into being. He was so dazzling, so sharp that even the aura of the 2 6th-grade war god elders of the Netherworld tribe paled in comparison. This young master has such a powerful aura. This is an inherent divine weapon's aura. He transformed himself into a peerless divine weapon and killed all demons and demons. This kind of aura has been recorded in our family's records. When fighting with him, he can suppress 30% of your strength with just his aura. He is very powerful. Empress Yu's eyes were very bright, and she sincerely sighed. Yi Qinghan's eyes were also shining. He did not expect young Master Tu Xie to release all his aura to be so terrifying. When they met at the Dripping Water Pavilion, he probably only released 30% of his aura. It was all for today's amazing feat. Today, Yi Qinghan once again learned his lesson. None of these peerless young masters were vegetarians. Previously, he had even told Li Shuier that smacking young Master Tu Xie would be like playing a game. Only now did he realize that he was about to bite his tongue. How could young Master Tu Xie, who was one of the most famous young masters of the continent, be looked down upon? How could someone who was valued by Honorable Evil Moon be looked down upon? Yi Qinghan slightly shrunk his body. and he decided that he would not make a move today. He had no intention of taking down Li Shuai. If he made a move, he would not get any benefits. Instead, he might be smacked to the ground. That would be really embarrassing. Young Master Tu Xie did not care about what the crowd thought. In fact, he did not even look at the crowd. His arrogance soared to the sky, and his aura pierced through the dome of heaven. His star-like eyes stared at Li Shuai, and he walked towards her step by step. As his figure moved, the surrounding space distorted again. His aura was terrifying, and his domineering aura was unparalleled. Lady Shuai, I am willing to be the second man in this world to protect you. As long as my sword is here, whoever dares to hurt you will have to step over my dead body. Swish! Along with young Master Tu Xie's resolute words, a golden sword appeared in his hand. He pulled out the scabbard slowly, and a dazzling radiance pierced into the eyes of the crowd. Countless people felt a stinging pain in their eyes. All of them took in a deep, cold breath. What a peerless divine weapon! Just by relying on the radiance of the sword, it was definitely a transcendent grade divine weapon that was above the superior grade divine weapon. That is the God-slaying sword. Honorable Evil Moon's renowned, transcendent grade divine weapon. Lei Yanhua had obviously seen this sword before, and she whispered to Yi Qinghan. Young Master Tu Xie's lightning-like gaze swept across the crowd. The God-slaying sword in his hand danced a few times, and he pointed it at the sky at a 45-degree angle. He said provocatively, "Today is Lady Shuai's coming-of-age ceremony, and I, Tu Xie, am willing to play a few moves." With a smile from Lady Shuai, I wonder who among the thousands of young masters here would dare to play with me? Wow! As young Master Tu Xie's words landed, the crowd was in an uproar. Chapter 805. This young Master Tu Xie is King, arrogant to the heavens. Yi Qinghan felt his blood rush to his head. If this was any other occasion, if the person in front of him wasn't Tu Xie, he would have slapped him away. But he didn't. Not only was the occasion wrong, but the person was wrong. Not only him, many other peerless young masters were enraged. More than a dozen of them even stood up and almost jumped out. But they were stopped by a telepathic message. They didn't make a move and just stared angrily at young Master Tu Xie. One could be arrogant. In fact, no matter how gentle these peerless young masters looked, they were all proud and arrogant. But no one was as arrogant as young Master Tu Xie. One man and one sword stood proudly in the arena, ready to suppress nearly 1,000 young masters. This act of looking down on the heroes of the world and everyone else completely agitated all the young masters present. There were even some supreme powerhouses who expressed their dissatisfaction slightly. But no one dared to stand out. Young Master Tu Xie's unparalleled aura and God-slaying sword had frightened all the young masters present. Supremacy Evil Moon's favorite disciple must have unparalleled battle strength. Who would dare to challenge him? Young man, this young Master Tu Xie cultivates the supreme law of time, and he has also mastered a high-level occult. Coupled with the supreme divine weapon in his hand, his battle prowess is comparable to a celestial the arch. If you fight him, you must be careful. Empress Rain's eyes were grave as she transmitted her message. Yi Qinghan nodded but didn't mind. He didn't intend to make a move. It was none of his business. He was just going to watch the show. Reverend Fragrance and Evil Wrath War God, who were sitting at the head of the table, smiled warmly. Young Master Tu Xie represented Misty City to a certain extent. They were also proud to see him in such glory. Reverend Li Quan also showed a trace of admiration. Seeing young Master Tu Xie reminded him of himself in the past. The same arrogance, the same disregard for the heroes of the world. Li Shuai sat there quietly. No change in her expression could be seen. No one is going to fight? Are you looking down on me? Or are you looking down on Lady Shuai? Or perhaps you don't have the guts? Young Master Tu Xie's lips curled into a mocking smile as his aura grew even more violent. His words were incomparably incisive, directly provoking Jun Mo Xie. Xiao. These words completely infuriated all the young masters present. The sky, full of gasoline, was completely ignited by a single spark. Countless figures stood up. These people understood one thing. If young Master Tu Xie continued to suppress them like this, all their previous efforts would go to waste. Venerable Li Quan had said that he wanted to find a peerless young master to be his daughter's husband. Young Master Tu Xie was obviously trying to prove his words. A single person who could suppress all the peerless young masters of the continent. If that wasn't the number one young master of the continent, then what was? Meng Lang is willing to play with young Master Tu Xie. Young Master Meng Lang was once again rash. Of course, this time his rash was just right. He knew that he wasn't Tu Xie's match, but even if he lost, he would still gain a lot of points from Li Shui Heir and revered Li Quan. A long spear appeared in young Master Meng Lang's hands. With a sway of his body, he appeared 1,000 meters high in the air. His hair and robes fluttered in the wind as he looked down at young Master Tu Xie. His long spear danced in the air, causing the space around him to tremble. His aura was like that of a dragon. It was obvious that he wanted to compete in terms of aura. "You are my match. Get down." Young Master Tu Xie's lips curled into a mocking smile. His eyes shone brightly as he swung his god-slaying sword lightly, creating a deep crack in the ground. Borrowing the force of the impact, his body shot up into the sky. His speed wasn't fast, but wherever his body passed, the space would distort. It was a very strange sight. Arrogant. The long spear in young Master Meng Lang's hand left a series of afterimages as he used his ultimate move. The spearhead turned blurry, and the space around the spearhead trembled. It shot down from the sky, piercing towards young Master Tu Xie's head. The space of the divine world was incomparably stable. Young Master Meng Lang's spear could cause the space to tremble. His comprehension of the spatial laws must have reached an extremely high level. A grain of light dares to compete with the sun and moon? Young Master Tu Xie laughed coldly. His body didn't move, and he didn't even look at the incoming spear. He only lightly waved the god-slaying sword in his hand. Furthermore, he arrogantly used the blade of the sword to block it, as if he didn't want to hurt anyone. The speed of the long spear was obviously faster than the god-slaying sword. If things were to progress normally, the long spear would definitely pierce through young Master Tu Xie's head first, causing his head to explode. However, what caused everyone present to be incomparably shocked, and what caused countless supreme experts to burst out beams of light, was that at this moment, young Master Meng Lang's long spear suddenly slowed down, while young Master Tu Xie's god-slaying sword abruptly sped up. Just as the long spear reached young Master Tu Xie's face, his god-slaying sword had already landed heavily on young Master Meng Lang's left shoulder. Under the immense force, young Master Meng Lang was sent flying dozens of miles away. Although Yi Qinghan's expression didn't change, he was extremely shocked. It was obvious that young Master Meng Lang wouldn't have slowed down halfway. So why did he suddenly slow down? Moreover, young Master Tu Xie seemed to know that he would slow down. This battle was won so easily and so openly. This was really a freaking victory. Young Master Meng Lang, who was at the third level of the Divine King realm, was defeated in one move, and he was sent flying so easily. Isn't it strange? This is the power of a supreme law. The Rain Empress smiled and said softly. Yi Qinghan was shocked. He turned to the Rain Empress in disbelief and asked, "Supreme law? Could he be using the law of time?" That's right. This young Master Tu Xie was using the law of time. The Rain Empress nodded and explained. He slowed down the flow of time around young Master Meng Lang and sped up the flow of time around him. Of course, one of his attacks would slow down and the other would speed up. It's normal for him to be sent flying. Gulp, gulp. Yi Qinghan swallowed a few mouthfuls of saliva and looked at the arrogant young Master Tu Xie in disbelief. At this moment, he felt that young Master Tu Xie's arrogance was reasonable and justified. Young Master Tu Xie drew a flower with his sword and looked coldly at the young masters below. He said calmly, "Next, let me." Another young master rushed forward. Some of them did not believe in Tu Xie's strength. Some knew that they would lose but decided to fight. Some of them did not even show their strength at the start and could only muster up their courage to show off. The result was spectacular. In just an hour, more than 20 young masters rushed forward. More than 10 of them were sent flying with one move. A few of them only lasted a few moves. The strongest of them, young Master Yang Chui Hua, only managed to scratch a corner of Tu Xie's clothes. Who else? Young Master Tu Xie stood proudly in the air. His aura became more and more domineering. His god-slaying sword swept across the crowd. His eyes shone with a demonic light, and he was unparalleled. Yi Qinghan reckoned that he should leave early. The show was almost over. He had a bad feeling in his heart. If he continued to watch, something bad might happen. Young Master Yi, go and take him down. In the end, something really happened. A faint voice transmission shocked Yi Qinghan so much that he almost jumped up. It was Li Shui's voice transmission. Chapter 806. Yi Qinghan knew that his intuition was right. Yi Qinghan had the urge to give himself a few slaps. This Li Shui didn't have any good intentions. It was just a small matter, yet he insisted on owing her a favor. In the Blackwater Pavilion, he even boasted that it wouldn't be difficult for him to slap young Master Tu Xie to death. In the end, something happened. More than 20 peerless young masters. Since they were called peerless young masters, they had to have something special about them. In the end, they were all defeated. Demon Slayer's comprehension of the supreme laws of time had already reached a very deep level. He could slow down the flow of time around one's body. No matter how strong one's attack was, by the time one launched it, he would be able to dodge it. He could only take a beating. Most importantly, his saber was strange. Even if it was the time law, many young masters would not be defeated in one move. Although he couldn't tell what it was, Yi Qinghan's instincts told him that something was off. After all, this was the weapon that venerable evil moon used to dominate the world. Blue Rain. Do I have a chance of winning? Yi Qinghan didn't look at Li Shui. Instead, he turned around and transmitted his voice to the Rain Empress. Yes. The Rain Empress answered very straightforwardly. After pondering for a moment, she transmitted her voice. If he doesn't have a soul defense artifact, you can rely on that damn speed of yours and Soul Exterminator to directly exhaust him to death. If he has a Soul Defense Divine Artifact, you won't stand a chance. Did he? Yi Qinghan nodded. The Rain Empress had the same thoughts as him. He was a Soul Cultivator and could attack from afar. Moreover, his soul attack was useless against the time law. I don't know. Soul Defensive Divine Artifacts are very rare, and every single one of them is comparable to a transcendent-grade divine artifact. Even I don't have one. The Rain Empress shook her head and sighed. Then we can do it. Yi Qinghan nodded, but he thought of another problem. What if Venerable Li Quan wanted him to be his son-in-law if he won? But looking at Li Shui's appearance, she didn't seem to have any interest in him at all. This confused Yi Qinghan. Why did Li Shui want him to suppress young Master Tu Xie? Did she simply find him an eyesore? Miss Shui, can you change your request? No matter how he thought about it, Yi Qinghan still felt that it wasn't worth it. If he was photographed in front of the enchanting thunder fireworks on the night after the rain, he would lose a lot of face. Big Brother Yi, I owe you one. Li Shui's voice transmission came very quickly, and there was even a hint of pleading in her tone. Why? Isn't young Master Tu Xie good? Yi Qinghan asked curiously. The main reason was that he really didn't want to stand out. It wasn't easy to be in the limelight. My heart belongs to someone. Li Shui's answer shocked Yi Qinghan. If she had someone she liked, she could have just told Supremacy Li Quan about it. Since Supremacy doted on her so much, why did she still need a coming-of-age ceremony? He was even more dissatisfied in his heart. If you have a sweetheart, ask your sweetheart to go up. What's the meaning of asking this young master to take the lead? Li Shui's expression didn't change, but she saw that Yi Qinghan had become silent. In the sky, young Master Tu Xie had sent another exceptional young master flying, and he was roaring arrogantly. Who else? At the side, the admiration in Supremacy Li Quan's eyes became even more intense. He seemed to be very satisfied with this young Master Tu Xie. He became anxious and transmitted his voice again. My sweetheart is Xiaohei. What? Yi Qinghan was completely shocked, and he immediately stood up. In the end, swoosh, 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 everyone's gaze swept over. Young Master Tu Xie's eyes were frighteningly bright. The person who had been forcing him to make a move was finally going to make a move. Supremacy Li Quan and Supremacy Piao Xiang also looked over. Both of them were very clear that this was Supremacy Butterfly Dance's subordinate, and a soul cultivator at that. The smile on Supremacy Li Quan's face became even wider, while Supremacy Piao Xiang revealed a faint mocking smile. Xiaohei. Yi Qinghan didn't care about everyone's gazes, and his heart was still immersed in Li Shui's words. Li Shui's sweetheart was actually Xiaohei? When did this brat Xiaohei hook up with her? He's grown up. That's right. This brat must have hooked up with her in the mountain god's armor. Weren't the two of them very passionate during that period of time? Xiaohei said that Li Shui had asked him to spar with her today. Now it seemed like sparring was a wooden club. The two of them must have been flirting with each other all day long. You hook up with me, I hook up with you. This brat actually didn't reveal anything at all. He was rebelling. Also, the Black Water Pavilion. Yi Qinghan once again came to a realization. Wasn't Li Shui staying at the Black Water Pavilion? Black water. Motherf Astris Kerr. The love nest was already built, and he was still kept in the dark. How immoral. Now that this brat was out of seclusion, it was time to give him a good beating. Everyone's eyes were still on Yi Qinghan. Even the Rain Empress and the other two were looking at Yi Qinghan. Everyone thought that he was ready to make a move. Unexpectedly, he stood there in a daze and didn't say a word, as though he was thinking about something. Young Master Tu Xie was anxious. He had finally revealed himself, and he couldn't let Yi Qinghan shrink back. He quickly pointed his god-slaying sword at Yi Qinghan and said coldly, Young Master Yi, are you not convinced? Hua! This made things even more lively. This young Master Tu Xie was openly provoking him. Not to mention Yi Qinghan's reputation. Even an ordinary young master would be forced to fight after being provoked by him. Yi Qinghan didn't even look at young Master Tu Xie and directly ignored him. He smiled at Li Shui and transmitted a message. All right, little Shui, Big brother will help you in this matter. Your sister-in-law? I acknowledge her. Since he had acknowledged her as his sister-in-law, there was no other choice but to fight. Otherwise, if Xiaohei's wife was abducted, he wouldn't be able to play anymore. Xiaohei had helped him a lot. Without Xiaohei, there wouldn't be today's Yi Qinghan. However, he didn't think that he had done much for Xiaohei. Now, he could do something for Xiaohei. Even if he had to sacrifice his life, he would do it. Young Master Yi, are you afraid? Young Master Tu Xie was getting more anxious. If Yi Qinghan didn't accept the challenge, there was nothing he could do. Yi Qinghan's reputation was above his. If he could suppress Yi Qinghan today, not only would he be able to vent his anger, but he would also be able to solidify his position as the continent's #1 young master. Quack! Yi Qinghan finally came to his senses. When he heard Tu Xie's second shout, he didn't stand on ceremony. He shot a mocking look at the sky and retorted. Then, he slowly took out a flexible sword from his ring. He caressed the flexible sword with one hand and said, Young master spitting blood, right? Didn't you spit enough blood the last time? Since you want to fight with me so much, then let's play. You only know how to talk. Young Master Tu Xie's expression turned cold. Just as he was about to retort, he realized that Yi Qinghan's body was slowly fading away. A sharp killing intent came from behind him. He didn't bother to retort. He immediately released his time law and swept the god-slaying sword behind him. At the same time, he retreated quickly. Hiss! Unfortunately, his reaction was a little too late. Although the time law had slowed down Yi Qinghan's attack, and the god-slaying sword had blocked his flexible sword, the flexible sword was still flexible and could bend. A piece of flesh and countless pieces of cloth fell from the sky like snowflakes. Young Master Tu Xie's back had been sliced off by the flexible sword, revealing his white bones. Yi Qinghan's attack was successful. The entire crowd was in an uproar. Young Master Yi, who was only at the first level of the Divine King realm, actually dared to attack. He even injured his opponent in one move. Chapter 807. This young Master Yi was really fast. A first-level God King realm martial artist was actually as fast as a God Emperor realm expert. Moreover, wasn't this young Master Yi a little too shameless? Sneak attack? With his reputation, it wouldn't be good if it was spread out, right? The eyes of Venerable Li Quan, Venerable Piao Xiang, and some other experts lit up. Yi Qinghan's speed was ridiculously fast. Even if he had comprehended the advanced, profound mysteries of speed, he shouldn't be able to reach this speed, right? Moreover, they felt that it didn't look like a profound mystery of wind. It was as if no one had seen such a profound mystery before. Could it be a lost ancient secret technique? Young Master Yi, you're despicable. How dare you sneak attack with your status? Don't you think it's degrading? Young Master Tu Xie's face was filled with rage. His injuries were a small matter, but he had been humiliated by Yi Qinghan. This caused him to be extremely furious. Yi Qinghan swung his flexible sword. Without even looking at young Master Tu Xie, he shook off the blood on his flexible sword. It was as if he felt that the blood had dirted his sword. However, he still felt that it was not enough. He took out a piece of white cloth from his spatial ring, and in front of everyone, he wiped young Master Tu Xie's blood. After wiping off all the blood, he raised his head lazily and said, "Your fart stinks." PFFF, the experts below, immediately spat out the tea in their mouths. Everyone was stunned as they looked at Yi Qinghan in disbelief. Was this the peerless young Master Yi, whose name shook the entire Dripping Spring City? Didn't he have a super powerful background? Since he was from a super family, why didn't he have any manners? Why did he act like a hoodlum and swear in such a situation? Wasn't he afraid that Lei Shui would hate him? Wasn't he afraid that Venerable Li Quan would deny his right to be his son-in-law? If he really didn't care about such things, why did he come here? To simply humiliate young Master Tu Xie? Even if he wasn't here to ask for a marriage, wasn't he afraid that his reputation would be ruined? Of course, Yi Qinghan wasn't afraid. In fact, he didn't swear on purpose. He did it on purpose. He had never cared about his own reputation. In other words, other than his own people, he didn't care about how others looked at him. Fame was nothing to him. What he really wanted were tangible benefits. He wasn't from a super big family, but he still had some manners. The reason why he did this today was entirely intentional. Attack the stratagem with the army. Since they wanted to fight, then they were enemies. Against enemies, he dared to use any means. What was the purpose of starting a war? It was to win. As for how they played their cards, that was not important. If it was just a few simple words that could disturb the enemy's mind and cause their combat power to drop, he would be more than happy to do so. Looking at Tu Xie's pale face, Yi Qinghan became even happier. He continued, "What do you mean by sneak attack? Young Master vomiting blood? Is there something wrong with your brain? Since you want to fight with yours truly shall satisfy you then. Since it was a battle, then they were enemies. But if the enemy started a battle with you, would they tell you that they were going to attack? You had to be careful, right? Would they tell you what angle to attack from and what moves to use against you?" Yi Qinghan's words reverberated in the air and traveled far away, amusing the group of people. Of course, it also made the group of people's faces turn even darker. Young Master Tu Xie's vision darkened. His body swayed, and he almost fell. But at this moment, his heart tightened again. His eyes swept downward, and his heart was filled with rage. This young Master Yi actually launched another sneak attack. Furthermore, the sneak attack was on his lower body. If he were to be sliced off, his penis would be sliced off along with a bloody mist in the air. That scene would be awesome. At this moment, he didn't dare to conserve his strength anymore. Activating the law of time, the god's slaying sword in his hand slashed downward violently. At this moment, the shining god's slaying sword released a golden current that transformed into a raging dragon that whizzed toward the flexible sword that had just appeared. At the same time, a domineering aura that made one's heart palpitate enveloped the area below. F*CK. When Yi Qinghan sensed the aura emitted from the god-slaying sword, he realized that something was wrong. This was because he was very familiar with this aura. The slaughter god blade also had this aura. Immediately, he threw the flexible sword in his hand upwards. Without any hesitation, he fled into the distance. Boom! That raging golden dragon directly smashed Yi Qinghan's flexible sword into pieces. As Yi Qinghan was affected by the law of time and the raging golden dragon, his speed was reduced by 3 times. He barely dodged the dragon's attack. However, the back of his robe and hair were directly smashed into pieces. He was in an extremely sorry state. It really is the soul of an ancient true dragon, releasing the soul of the weapon to attack the enemy. This god-slaying sword is indeed, as the legends say. Just one sword is comparable to a god arch. This is under the situation where young Master Tu Xie is unable to fully activate the power of the sword, but it is already so powerful. Young Master Ye's speed and reaction speed are so fast. If it was an ordinary peak god king, that attack would have killed him. How is this a fight between god kings? It's like a fight between god thearchs. Just the attack just now had shocked all the martial artists present. They were shocked by the power of the legendary god-slaying sword. They were shocked by Yi Qinghan's reaction speed and movement speed. Of course, there were also some people who were worried. Sister Lan Yu, will Qinghan be all right? Yi Qianrao grabbed Empress Yu's robe tightly, almost tearing it apart. Little Firework blinked her big eyes and asked anxiously, "Yes, Sister Lan Yu, will Big Brother Yi still be able to win?" "Look, little man, there are still many trump cards that he has not shown. The outcome is not yet decided. However, I think it will be more careful later. Nothing big will happen. Aren't there 2 supremacies here? Tu Xie can't kill him." Empress Yu was not worried at all. She looked at the sky with a smile, waiting for Yi Qinghan to flip out. Yi Qinghan really wanted to flip out. That furious golden dragon just now had almost pulverized his entire Oblivion City. This Tu Xie wanted to kill him, suppressing the anger in his heart and the urge to take out the slaughter god blade to kill him. Yi Qinghan did not dare to play around anymore. Of course, he did not dare to take out the slaughter god blade. Body fusion would probably be useless as well. Then, he could only rely on his soul skills to destroy the soul. With a flip of his hand, a fiery red blade appeared in Yi Qinghan's hand again. The saber was more than 10 meters long and had a curved shape. God energy was directly injected into it, causing it to spit out a green saber wave that was hundreds of meters long. Yi Qinghan gripped the saber with both hands and slashed it down. A huge crescent-shaped saber light shot towards young, noble Tu Xie. At the same time, his body flashed to the side and appeared a few kilometers behind young Master Tu Xie. Once again, he slashed out another crescent blade light. With another flash, he appeared on the right side and slashed out another blade light. The crescent blade light was very fast, but Yi Qinghan's so close, yet worlds apart was even faster. In the blink of an eye, 7 or 8 blade lights flew towards young Master Tu Xie from all directions. The momentum was so great that it seemed like it was going to cut through the void and turn young Master Tu Xie into a pile of minced meat. Chapter 808. Young Master Tu Xie didn't even bat an eye at the terrifying saber radiance. His divine senses were locked on to Yi Qinghan. Not only him, but the countless young masters and supreme experts below also locked on to Yi Qinghan with their divine senses. They weren't fools. The saber radiance looked terrifying, but at the God King realm, it couldn't cause much damage. They also knew that Yi Qinghan wasn't a fool. After wasting so much divine power, he definitely had a backup plan. The saber radiance was just a cover for his next move. It was a cover for his real killer move. As expected, in the next second, Yi Qinghan moved. The red saber disappeared from his hand, and a black pocket-sized sword appeared in his hand. The sword didn't have any divine light, and it looked like an ordinary weapon. However, Yi Qinghan just smiled and threw the sword at his hand. It chased after the aura in front of him and shot towards young Master Tu Xie. Then, he took a step forward and disappeared from his original spot. There must be something wrong if something was wrong. At this moment, young Master Tu Xie's mental state was at its peak. His divine senses scanned the surroundings, and he paid special attention to the small sword that broke through the air. The god-slaying sword in his hand danced wildly beside him, and the golden dragon that entered the sword body roared again. It circled around his body, ready to mince all the enemy's attacks. The countless supreme experts below also stared at the small sword with burning eyes. No matter how they looked at it, the small sword seemed like an ordinary weapon. It couldn't even compare to the lowest low-quality god artifact. However, the more they thought so, the more suspicious they became. Yi Qinghan couldn't have wasted a second to throw an ordinary weapon. There was definitely something strange about this small sword. Smart. The Rain Empress nodded her head approvingly. Of course, she knew what Yi Qinghan's goal was. Supremacy, Li Quan also knew. Because Li He's city lord was a soul cultivator, he could sense that Yi Qinghan was also a soul cultivator. Supremacy Piaoxiang, who was beside him, also noticed something. However, she smiled faintly and didn't seem to mind. This was indeed an ordinary weapon, a sacred weapon from the fire dragon plane. Yi Qinghan had purposely wasted a second to mislead young Master Tu Xie and divert his attention to the small sword under the watchful eyes of the crowd. Thus, he quietly released his true killing move, Soul Extermination. Xiao. The location where Yi Qinghan appeared was very coincidental. He was a few hundred meters away from young Master Tu Xie. Even if the god-slaying sword's artifact soul, the golden raging dragon, came charging at him, he would still be able to escape. When his figure condensed, a shining golden giant axe once again appeared in his hand. Of course, this was also used to attract Tu Xie's attention. At this moment, his divine sense had already spread out, and he instantly released the god of extermination. His powerful divine sense transformed into millions of golden soul threads and surged into young Master Tu Xie's mind, directly enveloping his soul sea. Bam, bam, bam. The 7 or 8 powerful saber gleams collided with the golden raging dragon's artifact soul and made a loud noise. Then, they disappeared into the sky. The golden raging dragon's artifact soul was completely unscathed and was still flying around young Master Tu Xie. Pa! The small sword, which had no aura at all, pierced through the air. In the end, after coming into contact with the aura of the golden raging dragon, it turned into dust. Obviously, it was a pile of scrap metal. Done. Yi Qinghan didn't care about the sacred weapon at all. His eyes suddenly lit up. This was because he felt that although most of his golden soul threads had been neutralized by the shield around Tu Xie's soul sea, some of them had already penetrated and were rushing towards his soul sea. At this moment, Yi Qinghan clearly felt Tu Xie's body and soul tremble. The golden raging dragon outside his body also began to shrink back into the god-slaying sword. Good chance. Yi Qinghan was very clear that young Master Tu Xie's soul was very strong. It was obvious that it had been enhanced and modified by treasures. The soul extinguisher couldn't completely damage his soul, let alone annihilate it. But as long as Tu Xie's soul was slightly affected, it would be enough. Yi Qinghan's body turned into a gust of wind and swept forward. The giant axe in his hand shone even brighter. Gritting his teeth, he used the soul extinguisher again at the expense of exhausting his soul. Countless golden soul threads once again rushed towards Tu Xie's brain. He was very confident that as long as Tu Xie was in a daze for one more second, he would be able to chop off Tu Xie's lower body. If he allowed Tu Xie's penis to fly in the air for a while, the outcome of today's battle would be decided. He would also be able to protect Xiao Hei's wife. Wow! Countless supreme experts in the field realized that something was wrong. One by one, they stood up and stared at the sky with glittering eyes. At this moment, young Master Tu Xie's body was obviously trembling. The golden dragon outside his body had already been completely retracted. It was as if he had suddenly become stupid and had completely given up on resisting. Of course, everyone knew that Tu Xie wasn't stupid. There was only one possibility. There was something wrong with his soul. This young master Yi was a soul cultivator. Swish! Yi Qinghan's body had already pierced through the air. The giant axe floated up high, drew an arc in the air, and chopped down towards young Master Tu Xie's lower body. Everyone couldn't bear to watch anymore. Although Yi Qinghan's strike was below the divine crystal and wouldn't directly shatter it, the position of his strike was right at the base of Tu Xie's thigh. If this axe really chopped down, it wouldn't be 2 legs that would be flying in the air. Instead, it would be 3 legs and 2 balls. Something wasn't right. Abruptly, Yi Qinghan's expression changed. His body flashed, and he didn't even care about his axe as he frantically dodged to the side. Just now, he casually glanced at Reverend Fragrance and Evil Fury War God, wanting to see if the 2 of them would stop him. He didn't expect to see 2 pairs of mocking eyes. At the same time, his heart surged with a strong sense of unease. Of course, he couldn't care less about castrating Tu Xie. He had to run first. Buzz! At this moment, young Master Tu Xie's head suddenly lit up. It was hard to imagine what it looked like for a person's head to suddenly light up, but Yi Qinghan didn't have the time to look or imagine. He only knew that his golden soul threads had been completely turned into nothingness in that instant. Even his own soul had trembled and suffered some damage. Whoosh! That golden dragon roared once again and directly whizzed towards Yi Qinghan's back. At this moment, Yi Qinghan's soul trembled at just the right time. Thus, Yi Qinghan turned into a kite with a broken string. Amidst the bloody mist that filled the sky, he began to fly away at an even faster speed. He floated and finally crashed into the soil in the distance, raising a cloud of dust. Qinghan, Big Brother Yi, Young Master Yi, 3 exclamations sounded. Although Yi Yaorao and Little Smoke knew that Yi Qinghan had only suffered serious injuries, they still couldn't help but cry out worriedly. Li Shui also covered her mouth and cried out softly. Her cry was very soft, but it was filled with worry and disappointment, as well as a little sadness. This brat actually has a soul defense artifact. Supremacy Evil Moon is really generous. Empress Rain sighed faintly and looked helplessly at Yi Qinghan, who was crawling up from the ground. It seemed that it would be very difficult to get back at him. Her man had been slapped, and she also didn't feel good. With a soul defense artifact, a soul cultivator of Yi Qinghan's strength had no chance of winning, unless she made a move. Li Shui also sighed faintly and frowned, as if thinking about how to explain to Supremacy Li Quan. Supremacy Piaoxiang and Evil Wrath War Immortal's mocking smile deepened. However, Evil Wrath War Immortal looked at the insufferably arrogant young Master Tu Xie in the sky with a flash of jealousy. This little junior brother is really doted on by Supremacy Evil Moon. Not only did he lend him the god-slaying sword, but he also gave him such a treasure. Chapter 809. Pui. Yi Qinghan spat out a mouthful of dirt and blood. His mouth was extremely bitter, and his heart was even more bitter. He had been slapped by someone. He didn't mind being slapped by someone as he didn't care about his reputation. However, this matter concerned Xiao He, and he couldn't help but be angry. What's the use of being angry? Xiao He might not be able to fully control his soul spirit protection divine equipment, but he had no chance at all. Countless bones on his back were broken, but Yi Qinghan didn't feel any pain as he was already numb to it. The soul ring started to heal him quickly as he took out a holy fruit and swallowed it. This holy fruit was a good medicine for healing injuries. As long as he didn't die, he would be able to recover in no time. But what's the use of recovering? Should I use the Slaughter God Blade? Yi Qinghan looked at Tu Xie, who was standing proudly in the sky. When he saw the mockery in Tu Xie's demonic eyes, he gritted his teeth and considered whether he should take the risk or not. However, if the Slaughter God Blade was exposed, his future would be bleak. Most importantly, once the Slaughter God Blade was out, he wouldn't be able to control the killing intent in his heart. At that time, would Supremacy Piaoxiang make a move? Also, he didn't know if the Slaughter God Blade's attack power would increase as his strength increased. If it was the same as before, he would be playing with a ball. Why? Young Master Yi, you don't seem to be convinced. Are you ready to fight again? Young Master Tu Xie smiled as he looked at Yi Qinghan. He was elated that he had finally become the continent's #1 young master. Supremacy Li Quan had said that he would choose the continent's most outstanding young master as his husband. Other than him, who else was suitable? When he saw that Yi Qinghan closed his eyes and didn't reply, he seemed to be convinced. His mood became even better as he looked at all the young masters and arrogantly shouted, "Who else? Who else?" Yi Qinghan cursed in his heart, but he was in a dilemma. His injuries were recovering at 100 times the normal speed, but he didn't dare to reply. If it was useless to use the Slaughter God Saber, and he ended up exposing the Slaughter God Saber, it would not be worth it. However, if he didn't use it, how was he going to explain it to Xiao He when he woke up? Could it be that, according to my estimation, I can't defeat Tu Xie? Damn it, let's go all out. After a while, Yi Qinghan felt that his injuries were almost healed, and he resolutely decided to go all out. For the sake of Xiao He, he was willing to be hunted down by the people of the immortal realm. Without Xiao he would have died a long time ago. "Boss, what are you doing? Why is it that every time I wake up, I see you covered in blood?" Just as Yi Qinghan was about to open his eyes and fly into the sky, a voice transmission sounded in his mind, causing his entire body to tremble. This voice was very familiar. It had been decades since he last heard this voice. It was Xiao He's voice. "Xiao He, goddamn it, you're finally awake. Damn it, why didn't you die after being in seclusion for so long?" Yi Qinghan was so agitated that he directly used his soul spirit to scold Xiao He. He was so agitated that his voice transmission started to tremble. "Boss, don't be agitated. It's my fault. I was wrong, all right? Don't scold me." The moment Yi Qinghan flew into a rage, Xiao He immediately softened and hurriedly apologized. He copied Yi Qinghan's method and immediately diverted his attention. "Boss, where is this? Why are you out of the Seal God Valley? There are so many people outside. Who injured you? Tell me, Lord Xiao He, and I will help you kill him. Kill your sister. If I didn't help you snatch your wife, would I end up like this? Damn it. After this matter is over, see how I will beat you up." Not mentioning this, Yi Qinghan was so angry that his soul started to emit smoke. He scolded angrily for a while before saying, "Don't speak. I will try to use the Slaughter God Blade to chop down this bird who snatched your wife." "What's going on?" "Wait, boss, don't be anxious. Don't be anxious. Explain the situation clearly first. Maybe I can help you kill him." Xiao He's words stunned Yi Qinghan. Xiao He had been in seclusion for dozens of years. Could it be that he had a huge breakthrough? He immediately became spirited and explained in detail to Xiao He. "Damn, I was wondering who it was. So it's that little girl, Li Shui. This girl is really too much. How can she speak nonsense and ruin my Lord Xiao He's reputation? What did I hook up with her? Seems like I have to beat her up when I have the time." Xiao He and Yi Qinghan had been together for so long, and his tone was getting more and more similar. Before Yi Qinghan could speak, he snorted coldly and sent a voice transmission. "Enough, boss. I roughly understand the situation. Although I, Lord Xiao He, do not like that Li Shui, I can't let others take advantage of her. Moreover, this bird is so arrogant. Isn't he looking down on us brothers? Boss, let's go kill him." "Kill him? How do I do it?" Yi Qinghan asked curiously. Hearing Xiao He's tone, it seemed like he was 100% confident. "Boss, you will know in a while." Xiao He did not speak anymore. Instead, he sent a message to Yi Qinghan's soul. Yi Qinghan took a look and his body trembled. His eyes suddenly opened and shot out rays of light. Who else? In the sky, young Master Tu Xie was still roaring arrogantly. His insufferably arrogant appearance made Honorable Li Quan and Honorable Piao Xiang frown slightly. It's fine to be arrogant for a while. It's fine for a young man to be arrogant. Without Ao Anchi, without drive, how can he still be considered a young man? But if you keep roaring as if you're afraid that others don't know how arrogant you are, others won't think that you're that arrogant. They will only think that you have a mental problem. What? Young Master Yi, do you still want to play? When young Master Tu Xie saw that Yi Qinghan had stood up again, his eyes brightened up. He did not hesitate to issue another challenge. Today, he had single-handedly suppressed a group of heroes. It seemed that he had obtained a lot of satisfaction in his heart. I'm not playing anymore. If I continue to play, I'm afraid I will use my killer move. If I kill you, your master will find trouble with me. Yi Qinghan shook his head and sighed. Tu Xie laughed coldly. He obviously thought that Yi Qinghan was looking for an excuse to avoid the battle. In such a situation, if he had a killer move, he would have used it long ago. Of course, he did not hold back and mocked. Haha, don't be afraid that the wind will cut your tongue. As long as you have the ability, come and take my life. I'm just afraid that you don't have the guts. AI, young Master Tu Xie, why are you forcing me like this? Everyone, you can be my witness. These words were said by him. If you die, don't blame me. Yi Qinghan laughed coldly. He had already achieved his goal, so there was no need to talk nonsense. With a flash, he disappeared from where he was and reappeared in midair, facing off against young Master Tu Xie. At the same time, a powerful aura exploded from his body. A 1,000-meter-long shadow that looked like an ancient giant beast appeared above Yi Qinghan's head. It opened its mouth and spat out a terrifying black air current that directly enveloped young Master Tu Xie. Chapter 8:10. Soul Devouring the World. Yi Qinghan stood proudly in the air and shouted. His eyes sparkled with electricity, and his aura was like a mountain. Under the shadow, he looked like an ancient beast god descending. The 1,000-meter-tall shadow above his head covered the sky and the earth. Its aura was shocking. The black air current was like the destructive aura of a world-destroying thunderbolt. It was unstoppable and unstoppable. Soul-devouring beast. Everyone's expression changed. Venerable Wicked Fury's face turned snow white, while Venerable Fragrance and Venerable Li Quan's auras shook, and they both disappeared. The name of the soul-devouring beast was well known by the previous master of the soul-devouring manner. It could be said that everyone in the divine realm knew about it. This was because the previous master of the soul-devouring manner, the Soul Emperor, was also a soul-devouring beast. Even though his reputation as a refiner was more intimidating than his actual strength, no one in the divine realm dared to underestimate him. Even though the innate ability used by this soul-devouring beast was different from the Soul Emperor's, its aura alone was not inferior to the Soul Emperor's innate ability when he was at the Divine King realm. When the Soul Emperor was at the Divine King realm, he could instantly kill someone of the same level. Even though young Master Tu Xie had a Soul Defense Divine Artifact, everyone was sure that he would not be able to resist it, because just as the soul-devouring beast's black aura enveloped young Master Tu Xie, the soul-devouring divine treasure in young Master Tu Xie's mind immediately started to protect its master. However, in the next second, it was forcefully pulled out and floated towards the soul-devouring beast's mouth. In one move, the Soul Defense Divine Artifact that was comparable to a Supreme Grade Divine Artifact was instantly stripped away. Without the Soul Defense Divine Artifact, how could young Master Tu Xie resist it? The innate ability of the soul-devouring beast was to directly devour souls. Young Master Tu Xie naturally could not resist it. As the black air current enveloped his body and soul began to tremble. This black air current was too terrifying. He felt like he was an ark in a raging sea. Perhaps he would be torn to pieces in the next second. He could only scream in his mind, hoping that Venerable Fragrance and Venerable Li Quan could save his life. Venerable Li Quan and Venerable Fragrance, of course, could save him. 8th grade war gods were at the level of venerables. If they let young Master Tu Xie die in front of their eyes, their 8th grade strength would be in vain. All right, young Master Yi Yuan. After swallowing young Master Tu Xie's soul-protecting divine treasure, the phantom spat out another black stream of air, preparing to kill young Master Tu Xie. However, a white figure appeared out of thin air midway, using his own physical body to forcibly block the spread of the black airflow. At the same time, Another purple figure appeared beside Tu Xie. His figure flashed and disappeared with Tu Xie. The shadow in the sky slowly faded away. Yi Qinghan sighed helplessly. If the two honored masters had arrived a second later, Mr. Tu Xie would have been dead. But thinking about it, it was unrealistic. Venerable Li Quan would never allow such a thing to happen in his territory. Thank you for your help, Venerable One. I couldn't hold back just now and almost caused a massacre. I've sinned. Although Yi Qinghan felt regretful in his heart, his face was full of shame as he cupped his hands and bowed. He looked so sincere that it felt like it was real. The peerless young master below rolled his eyes, and even some of the supreme experts quietly curled their lips. If they hadn't witnessed young Master Ye's shamelessness, they might have been deceived. Even a blind man could see the killing intent in Yi Qinghan's eyes. Wow, Big Brother Yi is so mighty. Sister Lan Yu, what was that phantom just now? It was so terrifying. Little Fireworks' watery eyes were shining like stars. That is the innate ability of the soul-devouring beast. It is a little different from the Soul Emperor's. However, its power is indeed greater than the Soul Emperor's. Empress Rain's eyes were frighteningly bright. This young man had revealed another trump card. She didn't expect it to be even more terrifying than the Soul Destroyer. Under the God Emperor realm, Yi Qinghan was absolutely invincible. Yi Yaorao's cold face blossomed into a beautiful smile. She said softly, Xiaohe is awake. I really thought you would die in seclusion. At least you have some conscience. Li Shui revealed a sweet smile. She then looked at Honorable Li Quan in the sky and transmitted a message decisively. Lord Father, this soul-devouring manner's young master is not bad. All right, everyone. Today's coming-of-age ceremony will end here. My daughter has taken a fancy to a young master. On the day of the wedding, I invite everyone to get drunk again. Honorable Li Quan received Li Shui's transmission and was slightly startled. Then his face was full of smiles. He looked at Yi Qinghan with loving eyes, which made Yi Qinghan's hair stand on end. Honorable Li Quan knew that today's coming-of-age ceremony was almost over. He was also very satisfied with the person his daughter had chosen. He could have anything she wanted. He was definitely one of the top young masters of the continent. He was just a little shameless. However, Honorable Li Quan didn't know that because of Li Shui's shyness, she didn't say it directly. He had identified the person his daughter had taken a fancy to as Yi Qinghan. Soul-devouring manners young master? If it wasn't young Master Yi, who else could it be? He didn't know that the real soul-devouring manners young master was actually Xiaohe. The experts below also felt that today's matter was almost over. In terms of reputation, who could compare to Yi Qinghan? In terms of background, who would believe that the expert in private room one had no relationship with Yi Qinghan? In terms of strength, all the young masters present were at the God King realm. Whoever went up would die. Countless young masters sighed and became even more resentful. Motherf ***, all the good cabbages were taken by a pig. Forget about Lei Yinhua. Even Lei Clan's elder was thrown out. They knew that they couldn't win. Now Li Shui also wanted, and look at the two other ladies beside him. Both of them were peerless. One had the cold ice jade body, and the other was definitely an expert based on her aura. Comparing people to people was really ***king incomparable. Wait! Everyone was convinced, but there were still some who weren't convinced. Although young Master Tu Xie's body was still trembling, he still stubbornly opened his mouth. As soon as he opened his mouth, countless people revealed looks of disdain. Even Reverend Piaoxiang and Reverend Li Quan's faces darkened. A loss is a loss. There's nothing to be ashamed of. But you're like a woman, babbling incessantly. What's the meaning of this? My soul defense artifact, please return it to me, young Master Yi. Young Master Tu Xie was ashamed under everyone's disdainful gaze, but he still opened his mouth. This was a treasure given to him by his master not long ago. He was really unwilling to let it be taken away just like that. The two ladies that could have belonged to him were going to be taken away by someone else. If he lost this treasure, he wouldn't know how to go back and see Reverend Evil Moon. young Master Tu Xie. Why didn't you say so earlier? Xiaohei, get your ass out here. Hurry up and spit out young Master Tu Xie's treasure. Once it's digested, see if I don't beat you to death. Yi Qinghan was shocked and shouted angrily. A shadow floated out from Yi Qinghan's chest and condensed into an extremely cute small beast. Xiaohei blinked and said pitifully, Big brother, why didn't you say so earlier? It's been digested long ago. Now it's just poop, fall. Countless peerless young masters stood up and prepared to leave. However, when they heard the words of this man and beast, a dozen of them fell to the ground with a plop. Young Master Tu Xie spat out a mouthful of blood. His eyes rolled back, and he fainted. Chapter 8:11. A Soul Defense Artifact. This was something comparable to a supreme artifact. Was the stomach of this palm-sized small beast made of sacred metal? Could it digest it? Like boss, like little brother, he had seen shameless people, but never this shameless. Are you sure you can digest it? This thing is so hard. My master had to refine it. Can you digest it? Tu Xie fainted. The evil fury war god had no choice but to take his place. After all, this thing belonged to his master. If it was taken away just like that, he would lose face, not to mention the loss. He knew that his name could not scare this man and beast. He had no choice but to bring up Supremacy Evil Moon's name, hoping that Yi Qinghan would understand. That's right, Xiaohei. Are you sure you can digest something that Supremacy Evil Moon has refined? You can't brag so carelessly. Be careful that Supremacy comes after you. Upon hearing this, Yi Qinghan frowned and nodded at Supremacy Evil Fury. He looked at Xiaohei and berated him with an extremely sincere expression. At this moment, even Evil Fury thought that Yi Qinghan really wanted Xiaohei to spit it out. Boss, it's really digested. What can I, Lord Xiaohei, digest? Xiaohei felt even more wronged. Then he became slightly angry, as if unhappy that others were questioning his strength. He pointed at the god-slaying sword in Tu Xie's hand and said, If you don't believe me, I can swallow that sword too. I guarantee that it will be digested in no time. Evil Fury was furious. A mouthful of blood surged up his throat, and he almost spat it out. He snatched the god-slaying sword from Tu Xie's hand and kept it in his space ring. Just now, he thought that Yi Qinghan really wanted Xiaohei to spit it out. Now that he heard their conversation, he realized that he had been fooled again. Did you not see the way the man and beast looked at the god-slaying sword? Their eyes were frighteningly bright. This person was too bold. He did not take him seriously at all. He even had designs on his master, Evil Moon's deity slaying sword. The young masters and supreme martial artists were all watching the show with great interest. They watched the Evil Fury war god being teased and waited for him to flip out. This way, they would be able to watch another good show. All right. However, a calm voice rang out, stopping Evil Fury from flying into a rage. Everyone's eyes lit up as they stared at the purple figure below. It was the demonic youth, Piaoxiang Venerable. He became even more excited. Could it be that Reverend Fragrance was going to make a move? Li Quan, congratulations on finding a good son-in-law. I still have matters to attend to, so I'll be returning to Misty City first. What disappointed everyone was that Reverend Piaoxiang only greeted Reverend Li Quan and then teleported away with Reverend Wicked Fury and Tu Xie. Many supreme experts scanned the area with their divine senses and discovered that the three of them had teleported to the plaza. Everyone have fun in Lichuan City for a period of time. Li will treat everyone well. Reverend Li Quan smiled faintly. Of course, he knew that Reverend Fragrance would not make a move, nor would she dare to make a move. Not to mention him, even Evil Moon Supremacy would not dare to make a move here. Even if the deity's slaying sword was stolen by the soul-devouring beast, it would not dare to make a move in front of everyone, let alone a soul defense divine artifact. After Reverend Li Quan finished speaking, he teleported away with Li Shuai. Before he left, he sent a voice transmission to Yi Qinghan. Young Master Yi, come to Blackwater Pavilion. The coming-of-age ceremony was over. The two supremacies, Li Shuai, had had left, and there was no more show to watch. Everyone was also very bored sitting here, so they left one after another. Yi Qinghan flew down from the sky with Xiaohe. Xiaohe. Xiaohe is black-hearted. Yi Yaorao and Lei Yanhua had seen Xiaohe before, and they liked Xiaohe very much. Of course, they immediately surrounded him. Rain Empress did not move. She smiled and looked at Xiaohe. Little soul-devouring beast, you have only been in seclusion for a few decades, but you have such a huge breakthrough? What kind of treasure did you eat? That's right. Yi Qinghan also came to a realization. Only now did he remember the message that Xiaohe sent him. Little Black told him that his soul had already reached the first level of the God King realm. Yi Qinghan's soul was also at the first level of the God King realm. With both of their souls combined, they would be invincible in the God King realm if they used Little Black's innate ability, Soul Devourer. Before Xiaohe went into seclusion, his soul was only at the peak of the heavenly God realm. But the moment he went into seclusion, he actually reached the God King realm. Xiaohe smiled honestly and sent a voice transmission to Yi Qinghan. Boss, do you remember the love of the dancing butterfly? That necklace contains terrifying soul energy, and it is extremely pure energy. Now, I have completely digested this necklace. The love of the dancing butterfly. Yi Qinghan suddenly understood. He thought about the Demon King in the baleful Yin stream. He was turned into dust by the light of the love of the dancing butterfly. It was not hard to imagine how powerful the love of the dancing butterfly was. Xiaohe had absorbed all of this energy. No wonder Xiaohe's power had such a huge breakthrough. Yi Qinghan had always wondered why Lord Devour did not care about Xiaohe at all. He did not care about his cultivation and allowed him to bring him to the God world easily. Now, he knew that Lord Devour had prepared everything for Xiaohe. This love of the dancing butterfly could not only protect Xiaohe, but it could also increase his power by leaps and bounds. That's right. And that soul cultivator Mo Xiao Xiao. It seemed that it was not that Lord Devour did not care about Xiaohe. It was just that she had arranged it secretly, and he did not know about it. He sighed again, marveling at Lord Devour's power and meticulousness. Yi Qinghan smiled at the Rain Empress and gave her a later look. He then sent a voice transmission to the other three. All right, you guys go back first. I will go see the Venerable and help Xiaohe acknowledge Li Shui heir as his wife. Xiaohe? Wife? The three of them were confused. Why did it involve Xiaohe again? Didn't you want to take Li Shui heir as your wife? Xiaohe pursed his lips and a trace of arrogance flashed in his eyes. He looked around and said in a low voice, Boss, don't talk nonsense. You will ruin my reputation. I, Lord Xiaohe, have not turned into a human yet, which means that I have not reached adulthood. Besides, I haven't agreed to marry Li Shui yet. Li Shui heir said directly that she liked Xiaohe. That's why I made a move. Yi Qinghan grinned and sent a voice transmission to the three of them. He could clearly see that Xiaohe was also a little moved. It seemed that this matter had succeeded. Waving his hand at the three of them, he then walked towards Li Bai in the distance. Sister Shui heir actually likes Xiaohe? That's good. That's good. A soul-devouring beast and a dream demon dragon mount. Both of them are supreme divine beasts. They are a perfect match. Little Firework clapped his hands and laughed heartily when he heard that, causing the servants of the Leaf family to be puzzled. Yi Yaorao also understood. In the mountain-piercing armor, Xiaohe played with Li Shui heir every day. Their statuses were similar, so it was not surprising that they had developed feelings for each other. Watching Yi Qinghan leave with Li Bai, the three of them also walked towards the gate of the dripping water pavilion, preparing to return to the Yi Hong courtyard. As for Yi Qinghan's safety, they were not worried at all. At this moment, let alone the dripping water pavilion, no one in the dripping spring city would dare to touch him. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.